You think the worst pain is being betrayed. It's not. The real agony is kissing lips that just touched another man, holding a body that no longer belongs to you, and not even knowing it. Many men convince themselves her distance is just stress, or age, or routine. But the truth is harsher. Women rarely confess, yet they always reveal. And if you miss the signals, you become the quiet accomplice of your own humiliation. That's why today, I'm about to reveal 8 signs that give away a woman who just slept with someone else. Signs most men ignore until it's too late. And the last one? It's the nail in the coffin, the one she can't hide no matter how hard she tries. Before I walk you through these 8 signs, take a second to subscribe and hit like. And let me know in the comments what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this message is reaching, because betrayal speaks the same language no matter where you live. And now, let's get back to the story. The first sign I'm about to show you is subtle, silent, and it's the one that quietly destroys more men than they realize. Number 1. The cold silence of her body. There's a kind of silence that doesn't come from words, it comes from the body. And when you've been with a woman long enough, you know that silence. You know when her touch has weight, when her kiss has warmth, when her body is reaching for you without you asking. And you also know when that current goes dead. This is one of the hardest signs to face because it doesn't scream at you. It whispers. You lean in to kiss her and she turns her face slightly. You touch her shoulder in bed and she stiffens instead of melting. She says she's tired, but her body isn't heavy with exhaustion. It's heavy with indifference. That difference matters because tiredness recovers with sleep, indifference doesn't. Here's the truth most men don't want to admit. When a woman has been fulfilled by someone else, she doesn't come back to you hungry. She comes back satisfied. And satisfaction leaves no space for you. Imagine trying to light a fire that's already burned itself out. No matter how many matches you strike, the wood stays cold. That's what it feels like when her body has already given itself elsewhere. The mistake men make here is denial. You tell yourself it's just stress, or it's age, or this is just what happens in long relationships. No. Attraction doesn't die of old age. It dies when it moves to another source. If she used to pull you close after work but now rolls away, that's not routine. It's a signal. So what do you do with this knowledge? You don't beg. You don't push harder. You observe. You test. Instead of chasing, pull back. Watch if the distance shrinks on its own or if it widens even further. A woman who still desires you will eventually reach out again. A woman who's given herself away will let the silence deepen. Your job isn't to force her body to respond. Your job is to recognize when the response is gone. The shift is painful, yes, but it's also liberating. Because once you stop lying to yourself, you stop wasting energy on a flame that someone else already put out. And here's the problem. If the body doesn't speak to you anymore, don't think the truth will hide. Because if her skin has gone silent, her habits will start screaming. If you don't see it in her touch, you'll smell it in her rituals. Number 2, the cleansing ritual. When a woman has been intimate with another man, she doesn't walk through your door carrying the scent of betrayal. She walks in smelling fresh, too fresh, a new perfume that wasn't there before, a shower that lasted longer than usual, clothes changed for no reason, underwear swapped in a way that doesn't match the rest of the day. On the surface, it looks like self-care. In reality, it's a cover-up. This is what I call the erasing ritual. She's not just cleaning her body, she's trying to clean her conscience. And most men miss it because they want to. You tell yourself, she just likes to feel fresh, or she's trying a new scent. That's how you gaslight yourself, because you don't want to face the darker possibility that she's removing the traces of someone else before you notice. Here's how it works. A woman knows her body tells stories. Skin holds onto smells, hair carries traces, clothes remember contact. So she scrubs, she sprays, She hides the evidence under lavender and soap, and the irony is that the more she tries to erase, the louder it becomes. That sudden obsession with hygiene isn't a random act, it's a pattern. Let me be clear, this doesn't mean every shower equals betrayal. That's not the point. The point is change. If she never cared much about rushing to the bathroom after work but suddenly does, if she's suddenly guarding her laundry like it's classified, you pay attention. Psychology isn't about absolutes, it's about shifts. It's about noticing what no longer fits the rhythm of who she was with you. So what's the move? Stop excusing the inexcusable. Don't laugh it off. Don't pat yourself on the back thinking, at least she's taking care of herself. No, observe. Connect the dots. If this ritual repeats, if it always comes with that too perfect smile afterward, you know what's going on. The mistake men make is ignoring their nose and their gut. You smell the perfume, but you call it fragrance instead of deception. You notice the over-cleanliness, but you label it personal growth. That's how you become an accomplice to your own replacement. The solution is awareness. When the pattern shows up, you don't confront with rage. You acknowledge with clarity. You don't need to accuse. You need to see. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And that clarity changes how you show up. But here's the thing. Hygiene is just the surface. Underneath, the game goes deeper. Because when her body is clean, she still has to deal with her emotions, and guilt has a way of spilling out sideways. Number 3, the blame game, unjustified irritation. When guilt becomes too heavy for her to carry, she doesn't confess it. She transfers it. Suddenly, you're the problem. You walk through the door and instead of a hello, you get a complaint. You load the dishwasher, wrong. You're too quiet. You're too talkative. Whatever you do, it's not enough. That irritation isn't random, it's strategy. Here's the psychology behind it. If she paints you as the villain, she doesn't have to feel like the betrayer. She rewrites the script in her head. In her version, she didn't step outside the relationship because she wanted to. She did it because you were inattentive or controlling or boring. This is projection at its sharpest. She can't handle the conflict inside herself, so she pushes it onto you. The trap most men fall into is defending themselves. You try to explain, you argue, thinking logic will fix it, but you can't out-logic guilt. The more you defend, the more ammunition she gets to keep painting you as the bad guy. And before you know it, you're walking on eggshells in your own home. Here's the shift. Stop playing defense. You don't need to win the argument. You need to win your dignity. Next time she snaps at you over something ridiculous, don't rise to the bait. Don't beg, don't debate. Look her in the eye and say calmly, you don't need to fight to justify what you've already decided. Then step back. Not out of weakness, but out of strength. You're showing that you see the tactic and you won't dance to it. That one move flips the dynamic. Because when you don't play the role she wrote for you, her script collapses. Now the weight of her guilt sits where it belongs, with her. And you just claimed back your emotional ground. Men often ask me, but isn't staying silent weak? No. Weakness is letting someone bait you into chaos. Strength is control. You're not ignoring the issue. You're refusing to be manipulated by it. That's what separates a man being drained from a man standing tall. But remember this, projection is powerful, but it isn't the final mask. There's another battlefield where the truth shows up without her even speaking, a place no excuse can cover, and it's in her body itself. Number 4, the body doesn't lie. A woman can rehearse her excuses. She can mask her moods. She can polish her story until it sounds convincing. But there's one place she can't control, her body. And this is where most men betray themselves, not because they can't see, but because they refuse to look. You know her. You know her rhythms, her warmth, her reactions. That's why when something changes, you feel it, even if you don't want to admit it. Maybe she feels unusually tense or unusually relaxed. Maybe her responsiveness has shifted. either exaggerated or strangely absent. Sometimes it's subtle, sometimes it's glaring, but it's never random. Here's the cruel part. You don't need to be a doctor to notice. You need to be honest. Men often explain it away. Maybe it's hormones. Maybe she's stressed. And yes, those things can happen. But when the shift is sudden, when it doesn't fit the usual pattern, you owe it to yourself to pay attention. Because ignoring what your senses already picked up is the fastest way to humiliate yourself. The mistake is thinking that by pretending everything's fine, you're saving the relationship. You're not. You're just postponing the collapse. A body that has been with another man carries an imprint, not always visible, but always felt. And when you sense it, but you force yourself to stay quiet, you're lying to yourself more than she's lying to you. So what do? First, stop running from your intuition. If something feels off, don't shove it down. Let yourself register it. Second, stop overcompensating. Men often respond by trying harder. More affection, more patience, more effort in bed, as if more giving will fix what's already been taken. It won't. You don't win desire back by throwing effort at it. You win by recognizing when it's gone. Here's a practical step. Instead of chasing her body, step into clarity. If intimacy feels wrong, scale back and observe. Don't accuse, don't interrogate. Just notice how consistent the change is. That awareness is your shield. It prevents you from investing more into someone who's already detached. And the deeper truth? If you ignore your senses, you're not being strong, you're being scared. Strength isn't denial. Strength is facing what you already know, even when it burns. But guilt doesn't always show up as coldness. Sometimes, to cover the cracks, she goes in the opposite direction. She turns warm, affectionate, even tender in a way that feels almost too good to be true. And that's exactly what it is. Number 5. Excessive affection, the theater of guilt. Not every betrayal looks cold. Sometimes it walks through the door wrapped in kisses, hugs, and a sudden wave of sweetness. And if you're not paying attention, you'll mistake guilt for love. This is one of the cruelest tricks because it plays directly on your hope. You've felt her slipping away, you've sensed the silence, and suddenly she's holding your hand again, kissing you on the cheek, whispering, "I love you," with watery eyes. And your heart wants to believe it's real. You think, she's coming back to me, but she isn't. She's trying to come back to herself. That affection isn't for you. It's for her conscience. Here's the psychology. After crossing the line, many women don't pull away. They pull closer. Not because they've rediscovered their desire, but because they need to silence the guilt. Touching you, cooking for you, saying nice words. It's all part of the act. The act isn't to keep you happy. It's to keep her from drowning in self-disgust. The mistake men make is treating this affection like a second chance. You drop your guard. You stop observing. You breathe out in relief. And that's when you lose all leverage. You become the comfort toy, the safe space she clings to while her passion burns somewhere else. You end up holding her guilt, not her love. So what's the move? Learn to test the source. Ask yourself, does this affection come with consistency or only in waves after unexplained absences? Does she touch you with desire or with obligation? Does she lean in with warmth or does it feel rehearsed, almost exaggerated? Those questions cut through the fog. And here's the tough medicine. Don't reward guilty affection. Don't let her wipe her conscience on your shoulders. You don't need hugs that are born from betrayal. What you need is honesty, even if it's cold. And sometimes, the strongest thing you can say is this: "I'd rather have your silence than your guilty embrace." That statement isn't for her, it's for you. It's your way of reclaiming self-respect in the face of false tenderness. Because here's the truth: love doesn't need theater. Real connection doesn't show up only after guilt. If her affection feels like an apology instead of desire, you already know the difference. And once you know, you can never go back to pretending. But if you keep accepting her guilty embrace, the next stage is worse. Because she won't just touch you without desire. She'll stay with you physically while her mind drifts miles away. Number 6, emotional absence in intimacy. There's a difference between a body beside you and a soul with you. And once you've felt that difference, it's impossible to unfeel it. This is the stage where betrayal cuts the deepest, not because of what she does, but because of what she withholds. She gives you her body, but she no longer gives you herself. Picture this. You're in bed, everything looks normal. She touches you, she moves, she even moans. On the surface, it's all there. But something is missing. Her eyes are empty. Her energy doesn't sync with yours. You can feel that she's somewhere else, replaying a memory that doesn't involve you. That's not intimacy. That's theater. And here's the brutal truth. A woman who's emotionally absent during intimacy is already gone. You're not making love. You're playing a role in her cover-up. And men who ignore this always tell themselves the same comforting lie. She's just tired, or it's stress. But deep down, you know the difference. Tiredness still allows presence. Stress still allows connection. This absence, it's a void. The mistake most men make is pushing harder. You think, if I try more, she'll come back. So you give more affection, more patience, more effort, hoping to win her over. But the more you push, the further she drifts, because her fire isn't missing, it's burning somewhere else. And every extra ounce of effort you give just teaches her one thing. She doesn't need to give anything back. So what's the solution? Stop chasing ghosts. Respect yourself enough to notice when her soul isn't with you. Pull back, say less, and most importantly, don't confuse physical participation with emotional presence. When her spirit has left, your job isn't to drag it back. It's to decide whether you'll keep lying in a bed that feels colder by the night. Here's a simple step. Next time you sense that absence, don't cover it with more effort. Pause, look at her, and in your mind, tell yourself the truth. I'm not here to beg for connection. I'm here to recognize reality. That shift in mindset alone changes everything. It stops you from being the man who tries to revive a bond that's already been buried. Because being next to a woman who isn't truly with you isn't love, it's humiliation. And if you let that humiliation settle, the next sign will expose it in plain daylight. She won't just leave you emotionally absent in bed, she'll start leaving you physically absent in time. Number 7, the late returns, empty excuses. When love is real, time bends to make room for it. A woman who still desires you will find her way back to you, even on the busiest days. But when her fire is gone, suddenly the clock turns against you. She's late. Again and again. And every excuse feels thinner than the one before. She tells you work ran long. Her phone died. A friend needed her. At first you want to believe it. You convince yourself these are normal things, because yes, life gets messy. But when messy turns into a pattern, when lateness becomes routine, it's not about life, it's about priority. And you're no longer at the top of the list. Here's the psychology. Lateness is more than missing time. It's a test. She's not just running late. She's measuring how much you'll tolerate. She wants to see if you'll question it, if you'll push back, or if you'll keep accepting less while hoping for more. Every time you let it slide, you train her. You teach her that your dignity is negotiable. The trap most men fall into is silence. You see the inconsistency, you feel the sting, but you swallow it. You tell yourself, if I say something, I'll sound insecure. But insecurity isn't asking for respect. Insecurity is pretending you don't notice. So what's the move? Call it what it is. Not with yelling, not with begging, but with boundaries. The next time she drifts in late with another flimsy story, don't interrogate. Don't demand details. Simply look at her and state the truth. You weren't here, and that tells me everything I need to know. Then let the silence sit. That silence is more powerful than any argument because it places the responsibility back where it belongs, on her choices. Here's a practical step. Track the pattern, not the excuse. Don't waste time dissecting the details of each story. Instead, pay attention to frequency, to tone, to how your gut reacts every time. Patterns tell the truth even when words don't. And here's the harsh reality. A woman who still chooses you will always come home. Maybe late once in a while, sure, but not as a habit. If she no longer returns to you, it's because she's already returning to someone else. But lateness is only half the story, because even when she tries to cover it, her own words will betray her. And when her story collapses under its own contradictions, that's when the truth finally breaks wide open. Number 8. The collapse of her story. Stories are fragile things. They can be rehearsed, polished, and repeated, but the moment pressure builds, cracks appear. And when a woman has crossed the line, her story eventually collapses under its own contradictions. You've seen it before. She comes home late, words tumbling out too fast, details changing with each retelling. One night it's a coworker who needed help. The next time it was a last-minute errand. You notice the gaps, the mismatched timelines, the way her tone doesn't match her words. And most telling of all, you notice her eyes. They don't hold your gaze anymore. They dart, they drop, they flicker with unease. That's not stress. That's deception struggling to keep its balance. Here's the mistake men make. They demand airtight evidence. They want proof, a smoking gun, something undeniable. But the truth doesn't always come with a receipt. It comes in inconsistencies. It comes in the way her story unravels the more you listen. The harder she tries to control the narrative, the more obvious it becomes that the narrative is slipping away from her. So what's the move? Stop playing detective. You don't need to gather evidence for a courtroom trial. You already have the signals, the changes, the silences, the patterns. When her story collapses, you don't argue with it. You step out of it. You don't beg her to make it make sense. You don't yell for confessions. You simply decide, I don't believe you and I don't need to anymore. That's not an accusation. That's a boundary. And here's the empowering shift. Once you stop demanding explanations, you reclaim your power. You stop being the man chasing clarity from someone who thrives on confusion. You become the man who sets the line. And the line is simple: respect or nothing. Practical step? Practice quiet recognition. The next time her story starts wobbling, don't fill the silence with questions. Let it fall. Don't rescue her from the weight of her own contradictions. That silence is your ally. It exposes what words are trying to hide. And understand this: you don't need to scream cheater to regain your dignity. All you need is clarity and the courage to act on it. Because when her story collapses, the truth is no longer the issue. The only issue left is your decision. Will you keep lying to yourself, or will you stand up for the man you know you are? And that's the final cut. Because after seeing all 8 signs, the real question isn't whether she betrayed you. The real question is whether you'll betray yourself by staying blind. You've just heard the 8 signs. And let's be clear, this isn't about turning you into a paranoid detective, snooping around for every tiny detail. It's about opening your eyes so you stop betraying yourself. Because the harshest betrayal isn't what she does in secret. It's what you allow yourself to ignore in plain sight. The goal here was never to catch her red-handed. The goal is to reclaim your dignity, your boundaries, and your power as a man who refuses to settle for less than he deserves. That's why these signs matter. They aren't just clues of infidelity, they're warnings. Warnings that something is off, something needs to be addressed, and that ignoring it will only cost you more of your self-respect. Now here's the truth most men miss. Not every sign means betrayal is guaranteed. Sometimes distance comes from stress, exhaustion, or years of poor communication, and that's why your job isn't to accuse. It's to test, to observe, and to confront the reality directly. If there's room to repair, you repair. You have the conversation. You reset the boundaries. You fight for connection. But if the evidence stacks up, if every sign confirms what your gut already knows, then the most masculine thing you can do is walk away with your dignity intact. Because love is never worth trading your self-respect. So here's my challenge to you. Pick one situation in your life where you've ignored your own instincts. It could be her sudden coldness, her constant irritation, or her stories that never quite add up. Don't push it aside this time. Face it. Decide whether it's a problem you can solve with her, or whether it's the end of the line. Either way, the decision belongs to you, not to her lies, not to your fears. Before you go, hit subscribe, tap like, and share this video with a man who still refuses to see what's right in front of him. And in the comments, I want you to share your story. Have you ever noticed one of these signs? How did you handle it? Because your story might be the one that wakes up another man before it's too late. This isn't the end of your journey. It's the beginning of taking back what was always yours. Your self-respect, your clarity, and your freedom to choose love. If you're in a relationship and you've noticed her messages feel different lately, colder, shorter, strangely distant, don't ignore this video. Here's the truth. If you're waiting for proof she's cheating, you're already behind. Affairs don't start in bedrooms. They start in inboxes. And by the time her words go cold, her body probably already has. I'm going to walk you through 6 subtle message shifts that most men overlook until it's too late. These aren't just red flags, they're behavioral fingerprints. And the man who can read them doesn't get blindsided. He gets clarity. So before you waste more nights wondering if it's all in your head, let's decode what she's really saying when she hits send. As a psychologist and relationship coach, I've seen this same pattern play out over and over. In messages men wish they hadn't ignored. If this is hitting close to home, hit like and subscribe. Comment yes if you've ever read a message that made you question her. And now let's start with the very first message shift you need to pay attention to. Number 1, the timestamp gaps and why her silence suddenly feels calculated. Let me ask you something. When did her silence stop feeling like she's just busy and start feeling like she's busy with someone else? You see, most men don't notice the silence at first. They focus on the replies, the sorry, phone died, the back-to-back meetings, the totally slammed today kind of excuses. All seemingly normal, all very reasonable. But here's the truth. When a woman is emotionally and physically invested elsewhere, she doesn't just disappear randomly. She disappears on schedule. This isn't ghosting, it's programming. She used to text you throughout the day, right? Little check-ins, memes, a quick thinking of you on her lunch break. It wasn't much, but it meant everything. Now, suddenly, there are 2-hour blackouts, 4-hour voids. Sometimes you don't hear from her all afternoon. And when she finally does respond, it comes with an apology that's almost too thoughtful, like she rehearsed it, like she's not just explaining to you, she's trying to convince herself. Here's the psychological layer no one talks about. When she's physically involved with another man, your text becomes a threat. One innocent message from you while she's with him, it can kill the mood, trigger guilt, or worse, expose the double life she's desperately trying to hide. That's why she creates digital dead zones. She silences the phone, leaves it in another room, maybe even turns it off completely. Because in that moment, the man she used to love has become the risk she needs to manage. Let me give you an example. Mark is 52 years old, civil engineer, married 18 years. And for 6 of those months, every Tuesday and Thursday between 1 and 4 p.m., his wife would vanish. No replies. No read receipts, nothing. Then like clockwork, 4:15 rolls around and the apology comes in hot. Gym class ran long. Lost track of time at lunch. Client emergency. But Mark's gut wasn't buying it. Not because of one missed reply, but because it was always the same hours, the same rhythm, the same script. And guess what? That gym class turned out to be the time slot she reserved for her affair partner. And the messages? Just cover stories to keep Mark emotionally asleep. Listen, don't focus on the excuses. Look for the pattern. One delayed reply doesn't mean anything. But if her phone always dies on Thursdays, If her texts dry up every time she goes to yoga, you're not looking at coincidence. You're looking at choreography. So what should you do? Don't confront. Don't accuse. That's not power. That's panic. Instead, take notes. Log the gaps. Watch the timing. Emotional betrayal always leaves a digital footprint. And her timestamp gaps? That's the trail she's too careless or too comfortable to cover anymore. Number 2, the emotional temperature drop. When her texts feel more like memos. There's a moment in every man's relationship when he opens a message from the woman he loves, and it feels like it was sent by his assistant. No warmth, no inside jokes, no "I miss you," just logistics. "See you tonight. Running late. Okay." And that's when it hits you. She's not cold because she's tired. She's cold because she's somewhere else. Emotionally, mentally, and maybe even physically. When a woman starts pouring her emotional energy into another man, you feel it first in the way she texts. Not in the words, in the absence of them. Because emotions, gentlemen, are finite. They're not an unlimited resource. And if she's investing her attention, desire, and emotional curiosity into someone else, she has nothing left for you but transactional scraps. Let's be real. You remember how she used to message. Little things like, "Thinking about you while stuck in this boring meeting," or "Can't wait to jump you when you get home tonight." Those weren't just cute. They were invitations. Invitations into her inner world, her humor, her heart, her hunger. Now, you text her a joke, she replies, "Lol." You ask how her day is going? It's fine. It's not the silence that hurts most. It's the sterile tone. Let me tell you about Tom. 60 years old, owns a small auto repair shop, married 35 years. He came to me because he swore his wife wasn't cheating. Just stressed, until he started reading her messages back to himself out loud. "I'll be home at 7, picked up the dry cleaning. Can you pay the internet bill?" He laughed, until he cried, because it finally hit him. She wasn't talking to him like a husband anymore. She was messaging like they were running a business together, not a life. Here's the psychology most men miss. When she's being emotionally unfaithful, even simple affection feels like a lie to her. Telling you she misses you while she's emotionally attached to someone else? That kind of duality creates unbearable guilt. So she avoids it altogether. It's easier for her to go flat, to pretend the feelings don't exist, than to lie to your face by pretending they still do. So what should you do? Stop trying to force warmth where there's frost. Don't respond to cold texts with flowers. Don't beg for emojis. Instead, observe. Let the tone tell the truth. Because when a woman stops texting like she's in love, it's not just her tone that's changed. It's her reality. Number 3, the deflection defense. When innocent questions get treated like accusations. It starts with a simple text. "How was your day?" And instead of a normal answer, you get hit with, "Why? Is there something specific you want to know?" Or maybe this one rings a bell. "You're running late?" "Yeah, I told you I had dinner with Sarah. Why are you acting like I'm doing something wrong?" Suddenly, you're not in a relationship. You're on trial. And your crime? Asking questions you used to ask every day. This right here is one of the most dangerous shifts in communication. And it doesn't come from stress. It doesn't come from just being overwhelmed. It comes from guilt. Real guilt. The kind that makes people paranoid, hostile, and reactive. Because they're hiding something they don't want you to find. When a woman's living a double life, emotionally or physically, every interaction with you becomes a landmine. She has to calculate which version of herself she's supposed to be, the loyal partner or the one with secrets. That constant switch burns her out. So she starts snapping at you, not because of what you said, but because of what it represents. Here's how the psychology works. She knows she's deceiving you. So she assumes you know it too, or are close to finding out. So every harmless question feels like an interrogation. Every normal check-in feels like a setup. That's why your care gets rebranded as control. Your curiosity becomes invasive. Your concern becomes paranoid. And over time, you stop asking. You stop checking in. You stop talking. And that's exactly what she wants. Let me introduce you to Ray, 48 years old, insurance adjuster, smart guy, but also loyal to the core. He once asked his wife how dinner with her friend went. She blew up, said he was always checking up on her, that she felt suffocated. Except here's the thing. He only asked because she came home 3 hours late and didn't text back once. It wasn't an interrogation. It was a husband wondering if she was okay. But she twisted it, because she had something to protect. You see, these reactions aren't random. They're rehearsed. Defensive deflection is a tactic. It's how someone builds a buffer zone, not just around their lies, but around their guilt. Here's the chilling part. When your partner turns your basic care into something shameful, she's training you to shut up, to back off, to stop asking questions, so she can keep doing what she's doing, uninterrupted. So what do? First, recognize the playbook. Stop walking on eggshells like you're the one who did something wrong. If she turns every gentle question into a fight, that's not your insecurity talking. That's her conscience screaming. Second, trust the shift. When asking, "How was your day?" becomes dangerous, you're not in a relationship. You're in her cover story. Number 4, the schedule smokescreen. When too much detail means you're meant to stop asking. You ever get a message from her that sounds too specific? Meeting Sarah at 7 at that new Italian place on 5th, probably hitting that little bookstore after. Should be back around 10:30, but you know how we get when we start talking. It's not just an update, it's a full itinerary, like she's filing a report, not telling her partner about her night. And here's the twist most men don't see. When a woman's being truly open, her words are relaxed, natural, maybe even a little messy. But when she's covering something up, that's when the details suddenly get surgical. Why? Because oversharing is one of the most effective misdirection tactics. It's a psychological sleight of hand. She gives you too much information about the innocent parts of her night, so you don't notice the parts she's conveniently skipping. It's not lying. It's editing. You feel like you know everything, but you actually know nothing that matters. Let me tell you about Frank, 55 years old, long-haul trucker, blue-collar, old school, never suspected his wife of anything shady, until she started texting him oddly detailed plans every Friday night. Dinner with Jen at 6:45, trying that new Thai place. Might swing by Trader Joe's after to grab those granola bars you like. Back home before 10. At first, he appreciated it. Thought it was sweet. But one night, he came home early from a canceled haul. And she wasn't there. And when she did come back, it was nearly 1 a.m. Granola bars don't take 4 hours, man. Turns out the dinner part was real. So was the receipt she sent him. But after that, she met up with her affair partner. The detail about dinner was her alibi, not her evening. Here's how the psychology works. By stacking up verifiable truth, she builds trust. Then she uses that trust to mask the time blocks that aren't so verifiable. Photos of the food, selfies with friends, even restaurant check-ins on social. It's all curated for one reason, to keep you from asking about what happens after. Here's your red flag. The sudden shift from vague to overly specific. She used to just say, "going out with the girls." Now you get GPS coordinates, timestamps, and emotional disclaimers like, "You know how we lose track of time." That's not intimacy. That's insurance. So what do? Stop being hypnotized by the detail. Start asking, what part of this is she trying not to explain? Because transparency doesn't come with a user manual. And when someone starts offering a play-by-play for their most boring activities, it's not because they respect your need to know. It's because they're hoping you won't look where it actually matters. Number 5. the intimacy and future avoidance. When we quietly disappears from the conversation. There's a kind of breakup that doesn't come with a fight. No screaming, no slammed doors, no dramatic exits. It comes through silence, through the quiet, calculated disappearance of one word: we. Suddenly, she's not talking about our trip next month. She's just thinking about going away for a bit. She's not texting you, "We should try that new place." She's saying, "I might check out that new wine bar downtown." See the shift? This isn't just about language, it's about mindset. When a woman starts avoiding the future with you in it, it's not a glitch, it's a signal, a psychological pullback from a relationship she's no longer investing in, because someone else is already occupying that space. Let's break this down. Future planning isn't just logistics, it's emotional intimacy. When she envisions her weekend, her summer, or even her evening, and doesn't include you, that's not forgetfulness, that's forecast. You've gone from partner to placeholder. Let me introduce you to Kevin, 50 years old, high school history teacher. Every July, he and his wife took a trip to the coast. A little tradition they started in year 2 of marriage. Except this year, she hadn't mentioned it once. When he brought it up, she said, "Oh, I didn't realize we were still doing that." Then she said she was thinking of doing something solo this time. He didn't argue. He just felt something crack, not in his heart, in his reality, because this wasn't about the trip. It was about the truth. He was no longer part of the picture, but still standing in the frame. Here's what most men miss. When a woman is emotionally involved with someone else, talking about the future with you feels like a lie. It creates cognitive dissonance. Every "we should" feels like pretending. So she stops. She doesn't want to be the bad guy, the one who ends things. So instead, she just edits you out of her imagined life, one text at a time. And it doesn't stop at future plans. It shows up in the present too. She used to send flirty messages in the middle of the day. Now, even simple gestures like, "Let's grab dinner tonight," are met with "too tired," or "busy," or no response at all. The emotional withdrawal becomes logistical distancing. She still texts, but only about the bills, the schedule, the chores, and that's how you know you've been downgraded. From romantic partner to roommate with shared responsibilities. So what's the move here? Stop asking, "When are we doing something next?" Instead ask, "Is anyone still planning anything with me?" Because if the answer is silence, you're not in a slow patch. You're in the prequel to goodbye. Number 6, the guilt compensation. When sweet messages show up at all the wrong times. There's a kind of "I love you" that doesn't warm your heart. It makes your stomach drop. It shows up after 3 days of cold silence, or right after she comes home late with no explanation, or on the morning after a strange vibe you couldn't quite name, and suddenly, just wanted to say you're amazing. I'm so lucky to have you. You deserve something special this weekend. On the surface, it sounds loving, but deep down, you feel the disconnect. Because these words don't match your reality, they feel dropped in, like a bandage over a wound you didn't cause. This is what I call the guilt compensation message system, and it's one of the most deceptive communication patterns out there. Let's get something straight. When someone's genuinely in love, their affection is consistent. It's tied to shared moments, mutual joy, connection. But when someone's hiding betrayal, that affection becomes erratic, not a reflection of how they feel about you, but how they feel about themselves. It's not "I love you because I feel connected to you." It's "I need to say this to make myself feel like I'm still a good person." Enter Daniel. 58 years old. Divorce attorney. Ironic, I know. One night, his wife came home hours late, didn't say much, went straight to bed. Next morning, he woke up to this. "I'm just so grateful for you. Thank you for always being there for me." No mention of the night before, no apology, just that sweet, disconnected praise. And Daniel? He'd seen too much. He knew this wasn't affection. It was atonement. Here's what most men miss. These sudden bursts of sweetness aren't romantic. They're transactional. She's not telling you who you are. She's telling herself who she wants to believe she still is. Because deep down, she knows what she's doing. She knows it's unfair. She knows she's checked out, emotionally, maybe even physically. And these messages, they're her emotional receipts. Proof that she's still trying, that she's not a bad person, even if her actions scream otherwise. And if you're not careful, you'll cling to those crumbs. You'll mistake emotional guilt for emotional investment. And that is how you stay stuck. So how do you tell the difference? Ask yourself one question. Does this message feel like it's connected to anything real? A great moment? A shared laugh? An actual experience between you two? Or does it feel like it came out of nowhere? Like she's ticking boxes on a good partner checklist? Because real affection builds. It's earned. It has rhythm and timing. But guilt compensation? It's random. It's rushed. And it's rooted in fear, not love. Don't get seduced by sweet words when they're delivered with cold behavior. Don't let a soft sentence erase a month of silence. And most of all, don't confuse her conscience with her commitment. The wake-up call. Stop investigating. Start mirroring. At this point, if you've seen 2 or more of these signs, consistently, not just once, then let's be honest. You're not in a relationship. You're in a cover story. And the longer you keep trying to figure her out, the further you drift from figuring yourself out. So here's the hard truth. This isn't about playing detective. It's not about gathering more timestamps, analyzing emojis, or replaying every conversation in your head. You don't need more evidence. You need more self-respect. Because chasing proof is just another form of denial. You're hoping, if you catch her red-handed, that it'll mean something, that she'll feel bad, that she'll admit it, that maybe, just maybe, you can fix this. But here's the kicker. If she's already that far gone, the problem isn't that you don't know the truth. It's that you don't want to accept it. So let's shift the game. From chasing her truth to claiming yours. If her energy is cold, match it. If she's transactional, stop sending poems. If she's absent, stop making excuses for her presence. This is not about revenge. It's about alignment. When someone stops showing up emotionally, mentally, or physically, stop overcompensating for their absence. Because here's what no one tells you. The moment you stop trying to pull her back in is the moment you start pulling yourself out. Let me be very clear. This is not where you confront her with screenshots. This is where you confront yourself with boundaries. Not to punish her, but to protect you. Because you can't text your way back into someone's heart. You can't guilt her into staying loyal. And you definitely can't save a relationship by being the only one trying. So instead of asking, what is she hiding? Ask this. What part of me is still hoping she'll turn back, even when every sign says she's already left? Your power isn't in what you catch. It's in what you choose to carry forward. Walk with that. You don't need to catch her in the act. You've already caught the truth. In her tone, in her timing, in the way her messages feel more like receipts than connection. She's been speaking loud and clear, just not with her words. Every delayed reply, every emotionally cold response, every overly detailed schedule. That's not noise. That's her emotional signature. Not meant for him, but left behind for you. And the question isn't, is she cheating? It's this. What are you still hoping to find that's going to change the truth you already know? Let that sink in, because there's nothing more devastating than realizing you're the only one still holding on. You're showing up with loyalty to someone who clocked out emotionally months ago, maybe longer. And the proof isn't hidden in her phone, it's written in her disconnection. So, what now? Now, you stop begging for clarity from someone who benefits from your confusion. You stop mistaking her silence for subtlety, her excuses for effort, her sweet nothings for real presence. And you start choosing you, not in anger, not in revenge, but in quiet, grounded dignity. The truth is, a woman who's still invested doesn't text like a woman who's already gone. So stop rereading her messages and start rewriting your standards. If any part of this hit too close, good. That means you're waking up. Now it's time to act like it. Don't drop a comment saying, "She's changed." Drop one saying, "I changed after today." Because that's how it begins, not by trying to get her back, but by finally getting yourself back. And if you want more truth that cuts through the noise and hands your power back to you, hit that subscribe button. Drop your thoughts below. I read them. I see you. And I'll be right here, telling you the things no one else will. You ready to rise? Good. Let's go. Have you ever felt her pulling away, but every time you bring it up, she flips the script so smoothly you question your own reality? That's not just miscommunication, that's manipulation. And if you miss it, the cost is brutal. Wasted years, drained confidence, broken trust that may never fully return. The truth is, before she cheats, most women use the same psychological tricks. They sound harmless. They even sound mature. But underneath, they're designed to create distance while she prepares her escape. In this video, I'll walk you through the 4 exact lies you must recognize, because spotting them early could mean the difference between protecting your heart or losing yourself in the process. As a psychologist and relationship coach who has spent years working with men blindsided by betrayal, I can tell you, these lies are not random. They follow a precise pattern I've heard many times in private sessions. And before we dig into the details, make sure you subscribe, like this video, and share in the comments the moment you first realized something wasn't right. Your story could help another man connect the dots. Now let's begin. Because the first lie women tell sounds harmless, but it's the seed that grows into betrayal. Number 1, I just haven't been in the mood lately. Men, let me be brutally honest with you. This is the most common lie women use right before they cross the line. And it works on most of you because it sounds so damn reasonable. Everyone gets tired. Work piles up. Stress builds. Hormones shift. Who hasn't felt drained and not in the mood? You hear this line and your instincts tell you to nod, be understanding, and let it go. But here's the truth that most women will never tell you. When she loves you, stress doesn't push her away. It pulls her closer. When she's tired, she still craves your arms around her. Maybe not for wild passion every night, but for closeness, for comfort, for feeling safe in the man she trusts. Real love doesn't shut down physical affection. It seeks it out, even in exhaustion. So when she suddenly has no interest in touching you, no spark for weeks or even months, when she flinches at your hand on her back, when she treats even casual closeness like a burden, that's not about stress, that's about redirection. Her body didn't stop wanting intimacy. It stopped wanting intimacy with you. And here's the cruel psychology behind it. When a woman begins investing emotionally in another man, her body reacts. Intimacy with you starts to feel like betrayal, not of you, but of him. The new man becomes her emotional center, and suddenly you're the obstacle. Touching you feels wrong, dirty, even repulsive. She's protecting the bond she's secretly building elsewhere. This is why you'll see the strangest contradiction. With you, she's too tired. With the rest of the world, she's suddenly alive again. New workouts, new clothes, extra time in front of the mirror, perfume she hasn't worn in years. She's shaving, posting selfies, buying lingerie, but somehow never in the mood when it comes to you. That's not coincidence. That's a transfer of desire. Let me give you a story to make this real. David, a 41-year-old financial analyst, came to me devastated. His girlfriend of 3 years had been distant for months. Every time he reached for her, she pulled away, saying, "I'm just not in the mood. Work has me drained." And David believed her because it made sense. Long hours, pressure, deadlines. But then he started noticing something off. She was at the gym every morning at 6, something she hadn't done in years. She bought a new wardrobe, tight dresses, heels, expensive makeup. Her Instagram was full of confident selfies, while in private she avoided even holding hands. David realized the painful truth. She wasn't out of the mood, she was just out of the mood with him. That's the pattern you need to watch. Her mouth says, "I'm tired," but her actions scream, "I'm excited." Just not for you. And if you're not careful, you'll waste months or years making excuses for a woman who's already emotionally checked out. Now, I'm not telling you to panic the first time she turns you down. Real life happens. Fatigue, illness, stress, they're real. But if she consistently withdraws from you while simultaneously pouring energy into her appearance, her fitness, her social life, wake up. That's not a dry spell. That's a redirection of intimacy. Men, you cannot afford to ignore this, because if you do, you'll end up apologizing for having normal needs while she prepares her exit. You'll tell yourself she's just busy, just tired, just hormonal, while she's getting her emotional and physical needs met somewhere else. The mistake most men make? They think patience will fix it. They think being more supportive, more understanding, more accommodating will bring her back. Wrong. When her heart and body are elsewhere, no amount of understanding will make her crave you again. So what should you do? Don't argue. Don't beg. Don't shame her. Just observe. Compare her lack of desire for you with her renewed energy for everything else. And ask yourself the hard question. Is this really about stress, or is her desire already gone? Because here's the truth. The right woman may get tired, but she will never be too tired to want your closeness. If she loves you, she'll still want to curl up next to you, still smile when you touch her, still seek the comfort of your presence. If all of that has vanished while her energy for the world skyrockets, you already know what's happening. Not every woman who avoids intimacy is cheating. Sometimes it really is stress or exhaustion. But when the distance comes hand in hand with a sudden glow-up in her appearance, that's when it's no longer innocent. It's a red flag. Number 2, I just want to focus on myself right now. At first, this sounds like the most enlightened thing a partner could say. Who doesn't want a woman who invests in her mental health, who works on herself, who wants to grow? You hear those words, and you probably even feel proud. You think, finally, she's doing the inner work. She's healing. She's maturing. This must be good for both of us. But men, here's the hard truth. When a woman truly wants to grow inside a healthy relationship, she includes you in that process. She shares what she's learning. She wants to bring you along for the ride. She talks about attachment styles and then asks about yours. She reads a book on boundaries and says, "Hey, let's talk about how this applies to us." Real growth in love is collaborative. It draws the couple closer. When she suddenly wants to focus on herself in total isolation, when every effort you make to be part of her journey is met with resistance, when your presence is treated as an obstacle to her growth, that's not self-care. That's self-separation. It's her way of building a version of herself that no longer includes you. So when she steps out with someone else, she can tell herself she's simply outgrown the relationship. And the cruel twist? She'll make you feel guilty for even wanting to be included. She'll call you controlling. She'll say you're unsupportive. She'll accuse you of holding her back. She reframes your natural desire to stay connected as proof that you don't respect her independence. In other words, she weaponizes self-growth against you. Let me ground this in a real scenario. Chris, a 46-year-old who runs an auto repair shop, shared his story with me. His girlfriend started talking about healing her inner child and finding her authentic self. At first, Chris supported it wholeheartedly. He even paid for some of the weekend workshops she wanted to attend. But then he noticed a shift. Every workshop was for her only. Every journaling session was private. She didn't want to share what she was learning. When Chris suggested reading one of the same books so they could discuss it together, she snapped, "This is my journey, not ours." And every time Chris asked questions, she accused him of suffocating her growth. Meanwhile, her self-focus involved going out of town more often, staying late at events he wasn't invited to, spending hours online with new friends he never met. Chris realized what was really happening. She wasn't healing her relationship with him. She was creating the emotional distance she needed to justify betraying him. Men, this is the pattern. Self-work that excludes you is not self-work. It's exit strategy. Healthy personal development sounds like, "I'm learning new things about myself, and I want to share them with you." Fake personal development sounds like, "I need space to find myself, and your presence gets in the way." So how do you tell the difference? Simple. Observe whether her growth brings you closer or pushes you out. Does she include you in her discoveries, or does every step she takes require you to disappear? Real growth makes love stronger. Fake growth makes betrayal easier. And here's where most men get blindsided. Because the language she uses sounds so noble, so evolved. Healing, boundaries, inner child, authenticity. These words are powerful shields. They make you feel selfish for questioning her. They make you doubt yourself for wanting to be part of her life. And that's exactly the point. If you feel guilty for asking to be included, she's already flipped the script on you. Men, don't get it twisted. A woman who loves you will never treat you like a roadblock to her evolution. She'll see you as part of it. If instead she frames your love as the obstacle to her growth, understand what's really happening. She's not healing. She's rehearsing her exit. Of course, self-growth can be genuine. Many women truly mean it. But when her growth journey keeps excluding you, that's not self-care. It's groundwork for walking away. Number 3, you're being too controlling. This is one of the most clever deflections women use because it makes you doubt yourself instantly. You ask a perfectly reasonable question, "Where were you last night?" Or, "Who were you texting during dinner?" And suddenly, you're the bad guy. Instead of answering, she flips it. Now the issue isn't her behavior. It's your supposed insecurity, your toxic masculinity, your controlling nature. Men, listen carefully. When a woman has nothing to hide, her instinctive response to questions is clarity, not combat. She explains. She reassures. She gives details without you even needing to press. Transparency feels natural when you're telling the truth. But when she's keeping secrets, every question feels like an interrogation. Every answer risks exposure. So she doesn't answer. She attacks. She frames your curiosity as abuse. She makes you question your own sanity for having basic relationship needs. Let me show you how this plays out. Mark, a 54-year-old restaurant manager, told me about his girlfriend. One night, he noticed her texting late, hiding her phone screen. He asked casually, "Who's messaging you at this hour?" Nothing aggressive, no raised voice, just curiosity. Her response? She exploded. "Why are you always checking on me? You're so possessive. I can't breathe with you. You're insecure, controlling, toxic." Within minutes, Mark found himself apologizing for even asking. He left that conversation believing he had done something wrong when all he had done was ask a normal question. Later, he learned she had been building a relationship with a coworker, exactly the man she was texting that night. The attack wasn't random, it was calculated. That's the key, men. When the truth threatens exposure, the best defense is offense. By attacking you, she shifts the spotlight off her behavior and onto your supposed flaws. And if you're not careful, you'll spend weeks, months, even years apologizing for simply wanting honesty. Now let's be fair for a moment. Yes, some men truly are controlling. If you're demanding her passwords, tracking her every move, monitoring her friendships, that's not love, that's paranoia. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about basic relationship questions, the kind any healthy couple should navigate easily. Where were you? Who's this new friend? Why are you coming home late? These are not acts of control. These are acts of care. A faithful woman doesn't feel threatened by those questions. She sees them as natural. She may even appreciate them because they show you care about the relationship. But a woman who's hiding something will treat every question as an attack. Here's the red flag. If every time you ask for clarity, she attacks your character instead of giving you an answer, you're not being controlling. You're being manipulated. And here's what makes this so dangerous. Over time, her accusations can rewire your mind. You start second-guessing yourself. You stop asking questions altogether. You tell yourself, I don't want to seem insecure, or maybe I am too controlling. And that's exactly what she wants, for you to silence your instincts while she continues unchecked. Men, remember this. Questions build trust. Accusations destroy it. If she consistently makes you feel guilty for asking basic things, that guilt is not coming from your insecurity. It's coming from her fear of being found out. So don't fall into the trap. Don't let her label you the villain for seeking the truth. A woman who truly loves you won't punish your curiosity. She'll meet it with openness. If she can't do that, if every question leads to you apologizing, understand this. It's not because you're too controlling. It's because she's too exposed. Not every woman who pushes back against questions is hiding something. But when every reasonable concern gets flipped into an attack on your character, that's not honesty. It's deflection. Number 4, I just want us to be honest with each other. On the surface, this sounds perfect. Honesty is what every man wants, right? Finally, she's ready for transparency. Finally, she wants real communication. You hear those words and think, this could fix everything. But here's the deception. She's not asking for honesty. She's setting the stage for selective honesty. That means she gets to dig deep into your life, your past, your vulnerabilities, while carefully curating what she reveals about hers. It looks like openness, but it's actually control. Here's how it works. After announcing this new commitment to honesty, she suddenly becomes curious about everything in your life. She wants to know your childhood traumas, your regrets, your mistakes. She asks about every woman you've ever dated, about your insecurities, about the worst moments of your life. And you open up because you think that's what real intimacy is. But when you flip it back, when you ask about her new male coworker, or why she's been distant lately, or why she hides her phone, suddenly the tone shifts. She says you're interrogating her. She says, I thought we agreed not to be controlling. She accuses you of lacking trust. In other words, she uses your own desire for honesty against you. Let me illustrate. Tom, a 50-year-old insurance agent, told me about his girlfriend. She always wanted to know everything about him. His first heartbreak, his fears about aging, even embarrassing mistakes from college. She said it made her feel closer to him. And Tom, being a good man, opened up. But whenever he asked her even the simplest questions, like, who were you out with after work? Or, can I see the messages you were upset about? She'd dodge, deflect, or accuse. You're being too suspicious. Why can't you just trust me? I'm telling you so much and you still want more? Do you see the trick? She framed selective sharing as deep intimacy. She made Tom feel unreasonable for wanting the same openness she demanded from him. And while Tom was busy bearing his soul, she was hiding the one thing that mattered most: her growing connection with another man. This is the cruel genius of selective honesty. It gives you just enough truth to keep you calm, while hiding the truths that would set off every alarm in your body. It feeds you scraps of transparency so you feel guilty for asking for a full meal. Men, real honesty is mutual. It flows naturally in both directions. It's not rationed out like a political statement. It doesn't feel like pulling teeth, and it doesn't make you feel guilty for asking. Real honesty builds safety. Selective honesty builds confusion. Here's the red flag. If she's open about things that make her look good, or things that win your sympathy but shuts down when the questions cut closer to her behavior, understand what's happening. That's not vulnerability, that's strategy. And the longer you buy into this, the more she gains control. She learns everything about you, your weaknesses, your fears, while you learn almost nothing about her reality. And by the time the truth surfaces, she's already rewritten the story in her favor. So don't be fooled by this polished version of honesty. Watch how it plays out. Ask yourself, does her openness make me feel secure, or does it make me feel like I'm crazy for wanting more? If it's the second, you're not dealing with honesty. You're dealing with manipulation. Men, hear me clearly. The right woman won't ration the truth. She won't make you feel guilty for wanting transparency. She won't weaponize honesty as a shield for secrecy. She'll make the truth easy to see, not impossible to find. Real honesty is mutual, not selective. If she shares small details but dodges the big ones, that's not openness, it's strategy. And strategy in secrecy almost always points to betrayal. Now let's get to the one thing you must do when you hear any of these lies. This is the turning point, men, so listen carefully. The instinct most men have is to argue, to demand answers, to become the detective in their own relationship. But that only drags you deeper into her frame. The more you chase, the more you look insecure. The more you argue, the more you feed her excuses. And while you're debating her words, she's already proving her actions elsewhere. So here's the golden rule. Don't argue, don't chase. Just observe. Actions never lie. Let me give you a practical checklist, one lie at a time. When she says, I just haven't been in the mood, don't fight her on it. Watch instead. Does she still want closeness in small ways? Cuddling, holding hands, spending quality time? Or has she withdrawn completely while suddenly investing in her appearance for everyone else? That contrast tells you everything. When she says, I just want to focus on myself, don't beg to be included. Observe. Does her self-growth bring her closer to you, or does it require distance from you? Does she share her journey, or does she insist it's a solo mission where your presence is inconvenient? True growth includes the partner. Fake growth excludes him. When she says, you're being too controlling, don't get defensive. Ask yourself, were my questions unreasonable? Or were they basic things any caring partner would ask? If it's the latter, and she still attacks you, that's not about you being controlling. That's about her needing cover. When she says, I just want us to be honest with each other, don't get swept up by the promise. Watch if the honesty flows both ways. Does she give you transparency as freely as she demands it from you? Or are you the only one on the interrogation chair while she carefully curates what she shares? This is how you protect yourself. By stepping back, observing patterns, and letting her behavior reveal the truth. You don't need to expose her with arguments. She'll expose herself with her actions. And here's the most important piece. Trust your intuition. Men, your gut is not paranoia. It's data. It's your subconscious noticing shifts in tone, energy, micro-expressions, things your conscious mind hasn't caught up with yet. When everything she says sounds logical, but your chest feels heavy, trust your chest. That's your radar screaming at you. Remember this. The right woman will never require you to be a detective. She'll make honesty easy, not impossible. She'll make love safe, not confusing. If you feel like you're constantly being spun in circles, that's not love. That's manipulation. So don't argue. Don't beg. Don't lose years trying to logic your way through lies. Step back, observe, trust your gut. Your instincts will save you long before her words ever will. So let's bring this home. We've walked through 4 of the most common lies women tell before they cross that line. Number 1, I just haven't been in the mood lately. That's not about stress. It's about her desire shifting away from you. Number 2. I just want to focus on myself right now. That's not self-growth. It's strategic distancing dressed up as personal development. Number 3. You're being too controlling. That's not your insecurity. It's her deflection, turning your basic questions into an attack. Number 4. I just want us to be honest with each other. That's not transparency. It's selective honesty, designed to give you scraps while she hides the core truth. Now, if you only remember one thing from this entire video, let it be this. The right woman will never require you to be a detective in your own relationship. She won't make you feel crazy for asking basic questions. She won't punish you for wanting closeness. She won't hide behind excuses of growth, honesty, or boundaries. She'll make love easy to see, not impossible to prove. And men, this is where your power comes in. You don't win by arguing. You don't win by begging. You win by watching, by trusting your gut, by walking away when her actions scream louder than her words. That's how you protect your time, your heart, and your sanity. So here's what I want you to do. If this video gave you clarity, don't just sit on it. Hit that like button right now so other men wake up too. Subscribe, because every week I'll be exposing the truths nobody else will tell you. Drop a comment. Tell me what city you're watching from. Because men around the world are fighting the same battles, and you are not alone in this. And share this with a brother who needs to hear it. Remember, manipulation thrives in silence. Truth spreads when men like you speak it, share it, and live it. Don't stay in the dark. Stay awake, stay sharp, and never let anyone convince you that confusion is love. Every man fears it, but few admit it. Waking up one day and realizing another man has your girlfriend's attention, her loyalty, maybe even her body. And here's the worst part. It's usually not who you think. It's not some flashy, charming stranger. It's the men already woven into her daily life. They look harmless, but they hold the keys to her emotions. And once she gives those away, the rest follows. If you're not careful, you'll lose more than love. You'll lose respect, you'll lose face, and you'll lose control. In this video, I'll expose the 5 types of men who can easily cross the line with your woman, and the blueprint to make sure you stay in charge of your relationship. Number 1. The gym guy. Let's start with the man you probably thought was harmless, the gym guy. And I'm not talking about some random dude lifting weights on the other side of the room. I'm talking about the personal trainer, the coach, the man who spends hours every week with your girlfriend while you're not there. You think it's just about squats and treadmills. I'm telling you, it's a breeding ground for blurred boundaries. Here's why. The gym environment is intimate, sweaty, high energy, bodies moving, skin showing. It's not a boardroom, it's not a family barbecue. It's a place where physical proximity is normal and even necessary. A trainer adjusts her form, places his hand on her shoulder, her waist, her legs, all under the excuse of fitness. That touch, repeated week after week, builds something you can't see until it's too late. Add in the clothing, leggings, sports bras, tank tops. Your girlfriend is at her most physically expressive in that space. And the trainer? He's literally paid to make her feel good about her body. Compliments roll off his tongue as part of the job. You think she doesn't soak that up? Think again. Now, let me tell you a story. John's 50, a retired firefighter. At first, he was actually proud that his younger girlfriend had gotten serious about fitness. She was glowing, talking non-stop about her workouts and posting pictures from the gym. But slowly, John noticed a shift. She started dressing sharper just to go train. Sessions stretched longer and longer, sometimes late into the evening. When John joked, "You spend more time with your trainer than with me," she brushed it off, laughed, and said he was overthinking. But then came the moment that stung. She called her trainer when her car broke down, before she called John. That's when he realized the boundary wasn't just blurred, it was gone. Here's the cold truth. Blind trust in that environment is like leaving your house door wide open in the middle of the night. Most guys think they're being secure by not worrying. What they're really being is careless. Women are emotional creatures, and when you combine physical touch, admiration, and consistency, bonds form, sometimes faster than you can imagine. And once that emotional spark catches, it's not about push-ups anymore. It's about loyalty shifting away from you. Now, I'm not telling you to go all paranoid drill sergeant. That will backfire. If you try to control every move she makes, you'll look insecure and suffocating. But you do need a strategy. Here's what actually works. First, if fitness is important to her, get involved. Go to the gym together. Or even better, create your own workout space at home. Show her that physical energy can exist inside your relationship, not outside of it. Second, pay attention to the little shifts. How much time is she spending there? Does her schedule suddenly revolve around gym hours? Is she dressing differently, more styled up, not just sweaty casual? Does her post-workout energy seem directed toward you or away from you? These are signals. If you ignore them, you're playing yourself. Third, talk to her directly, but not with accusation. Say what you observe, ask questions, listen carefully. The goal is not to control her. It's to set boundaries and remind her that intimacy, both physical and emotional, belongs in your relationship, not with a hired trainer. The gym guy is dangerous, not because he's some superhuman alpha, but because his role gives him access. Access to her body, her mind, her emotions. If you pretend that doesn't matter, you've already lost the battle. Protecting your relationship starts with awareness. Don't leave that door wide open. Number 2, the bartender or DJ. If the gym guy is the slow burn, the bartender or the DJ is the lightning strike. These men thrive in environments where inhibitions are already lowered. Clubs, bars, nightlife. They're not just about music or drinks. They're about energy, attention, and atmosphere. And the men who work there? They've mastered the art of making women feel seen, alive, and desired in the moment. Think about it. A bartender isn't just pouring drinks. He's a performer. He remembers her favorite cocktail. He gives her that extra smile across the bar. He listens when she leans in over the music. And the DJ? He's the guy commanding the entire room. His presence is magnetic. His hands literally control the beat that makes everyone move. Combine alcohol, flashing lights, and social excitement, and you've got a recipe for instant chemistry. Not real intimacy, just the kind of adrenaline-driven attraction that makes women feel like they're in a movie scene. And here's the catch. That temporary high often fills the emotional gaps she's secretly feeling with you. Here's what it looks like in real life. Robert learned this the hard way. He's 55, a warehouse manager. His younger girlfriend loved going out with her friends, and at first, he didn't think much of it. She'd come home excited, laughing about the music, the lights, the atmosphere. Then a name kept slipping into the conversation, the DJ. At first, it sounded innocent, just part of the nightlife. But soon, Robert noticed she'd linger after shows, waiting around while her friends were ready to leave. She started getting home later with vague excuses about helping clean up or just talking with people. When Robert teased her about it, she rolled her eyes and told him he was being paranoid. The turning point came one night when he glanced at her phone and saw late-night messages from the DJ, short, playful, with just enough intimacy to make his stomach drop. That's when Robert realized this wasn't just about music anymore. Here's the brutal truth. When nightlife becomes a staple of her life and you're not part of it, you're not just missing out, you're being replaced. These men, bartenders, DJs, they represent freedom, fun, rebellion. They embody the opposite of the stable, dependable guy you've worked decades to become. And guess what? That contrast can feel intoxicating to a younger woman, especially when she's craving an outlet. Now, before you panic, let's get clear. The answer isn't chaining her to the couch and banning her from bars. That only makes you look insecure and controlling. What you need is strategy. Step 1. Know the environments she's entering. If she's out every weekend in the nightlife scene, you can't afford to be clueless. Ask questions. Be curious, not suspicious. Step 2. Talk boundaries. That means being upfront about what respect looks like in your relationship. Is staying until sunrise at the DJ booth really okay? Is messaging back and forth with a bartender part of just having fun? Probably not. Spell it out, because if you don't, the lines will blur on their own. Step 3. Build alternatives. Create fun that doesn't require a bar. Plan adventures, laughter, shared experiences that outshine the shallow thrill of nightlife. If she sees excitement with you, she won't need to seek it somewhere else. The bartender or DJ isn't dangerous because he's better than you. He's dangerous because he thrives in the one arena where you're absent. If you stay absent too long, don't be surprised when her attention follows the beat of someone else's music. Number 3. The wealthy businessman or corporate executive. Now let's talk about the man who doesn't need charm or nightlife to pull your woman in. He uses something even more powerful: status, money, and authority. The wealthy businessman, the corporate executive, the CEO who walks into the room and makes everyone else feel 2 inches shorter. For a younger woman, being close to that energy can feel like stepping into another world. And if you're not careful, she can get lost in it. Here's the psychology. Power is intoxicating. It's not just about the paycheck. It's about influence, presence, and the way other people treat him. A man who signs checks, commands rooms, or owns companies has an automatic aura. He doesn't need to flirt directly. The mere fact that he can provide access to experiences, connections, or even small luxuries creates attraction. Women are naturally drawn to security and opportunity. When she's exposed to his world, private dinners, networking events, just business trips, that attraction doesn't feel like cheating. It feels like upgrading. Take David, for example. He's 52 and he runs a small auto repair shop. His younger girlfriend worked as an assistant for a wealthy CEO. At first, David didn't worry. She often talked about the job being demanding, the long hours, the pressure. But then he started noticing little things. She began showing up with expensive gifts, and when David asked, she'd casually say, "Oh, it's just a token from work." She started dressing more sharply, almost like she was preparing for a photo shoot instead of the office. David tried to brush it off, telling himself it was just part of corporate culture. But what gnawed at him was how she spoke about her boss, always with a kind of admiration, almost defending him when David joked about rich guys buying attention. She laughed it off, but her tone carried something else. The final straw came when she missed their anniversary dinner because she was at a late work event. That's when David knew the line between professional respect and personal entanglement wasn't just blurred, it was crossing fast. Here's the reality you need to face. When attention, gifts, and time from another man cross the boundary of just business, your relationship is already on shaky ground. The wealthy businessman doesn't have to compete with you head-on. He simply provides a contrast. While you're steady, he's extravagant. While you're grounded, he's aspirational. And women, especially younger women, can get caught in that comparison game without even realizing it. So what's the strategy? First, transparency. If she's receiving gifts or invitations that feel beyond professional, you need to talk about it. Not with accusations, but with clarity. "Help me understand why your boss is buying you a personal gift. That doesn't sound like work to me." Second, watch her behavior. Is she suddenly dressing sharper, speaking with more polish, or spending extra energy on work events that seem suspiciously social? Those aren't just career shifts. They're signs of shifting loyalty. Third, set boundaries around what's acceptable in a professional relationship. Private dinners? Probably not. Weekend trips with a boss? Absolutely not. It's not about being controlling. It's about protecting the relationship from blurred lines. And finally, never forget this truth. You can't outspend or outstatus a corporate executive. Don't even try. Competing in his arena is a losing game. But what you can do is reinforce what money can't buy: loyalty, depth, authenticity. Be the man who grounds her, who keeps her tethered to reality when the shiny lights of power try to sweep her away. A CEO can buy her gifts. You can be the man she actually trusts with her soul. That's a currency no amount of wealth can counterfeit. Number 4, the male bestie, emotional supporter. If the gym guy touches her body and the CEO dazzles her with status, then the male best friend is the one who invades the most dangerous territory: her emotions. This is the man who knows her secrets, hears her frustrations, and becomes the shoulder she leans on when things with you feel heavy. And make no mistake, emotional intimacy is often the first step toward physical betrayal. By the time you notice it, the groundwork has already been laid. Here's the psychology. Women crave emotional connection more than anything else. It's not always about looks, muscles, or bank accounts. It's about who listens, who understands, who makes her feel safe sharing the unfiltered truth. And when she invests that energy into another man, whether he's labeled as just a friend or like a brother, she's slowly moving her loyalty away from you. Emotional loyalty is the backbone of a relationship. Once that transfers, the body usually follows. For Mark, it was a brutal lesson. He's 45, an IT technician. His girlfriend always had a male best friend, someone she swore was like a brother. At first, Mark tolerated it. After all, the guy had been around before he even came into the picture. They'd grab coffee, text often, and she'd laugh at his jokes in a way that made Mark uneasy. But every time he raised it, she shot back, "Don't be insecure, he's just a friend." Things shifted after one of their arguments. Instead of cooling off with Mark, she disappeared for the night and later admitted she'd stayed at her bestie's place because he listens without judging. That cut deep. Mark tried to brush it aside, but he couldn't shake the feeling that she was leaning on another man for the kind of emotional support he thought was reserved for him. The problem wasn't just one night. It was the creeping realization that piece by piece, her emotional energy was being invested somewhere else. Here's the ugly truth. Emotional cheating often feels innocent to women. They tell themselves, "I'm just venting, he understands me." But every time she unloads her frustrations on him instead of you, she's strengthening his role as her confidant. And here's the kicker. A man who's sitting there listening to her heartaches is almost always waiting for the chance to cross the line. He might play the patient, caring friend, but deep down, he knows vulnerability opens doors. The male bestie role is the slowest but deadliest threat. So what's your move? First, don't fall into the trap of outright banning her from having male friends. That will only backfire, making you look controlling and insecure. Instead, ask the right questions. Why does she need him so much? Why does she run to him when things go wrong instead of coming to you? If her answers are vague or defensive, that's a red flag. Second, discuss his role openly, not in an accusatory way, but in a boundary-setting way. I want to understand why you trust him with your problems more than me. That doesn't feel like partnership. Third, watch for transparency. Does she keep her interactions with him in the open? Or is she hiding texts, deleting messages, keeping plans quiet? If it's the latter, then she knows she's already crossing lines. And here's the part you need to hear. You can't compete with the male bestie by out-talking him. Your job isn't to become her therapist. It's to re-establish your place as her emotional anchor. That means creating an environment where she feels safe bringing her raw self to you, not outsourcing that intimacy to someone else. A woman who leans on another man for emotional safety is already halfway out the door. If you ignore it, don't be surprised when one night just talking turns into something irreversible. The male bestie is not harmless. He's not just a friend. He's the emotional parasite that thrives when you're not paying attention. And if you don't cut that reliance off at the root, you're going to wake up one day realizing you weren't just competing with another man. You were competing with her own need to be understood, And that's a battle you never want to lose. Number 5. The male therapist or counselor. Now we arrive at the man society tells you to trust, the one with the framed degree, the professional tone, the office with soft lighting and tissues on the table. The male therapist or counselor. On the surface, he's there to help. But beneath that professional role lies the most overlooked risk in your relationship. Because if your woman is pouring her rawest emotions, her secrets, her deepest pains into another man week after week, you may already be losing her and not even realize it. Here's why. Therapy is designed to create intimacy, confidential conversations, safe space, no judgment. That environment is powerful, especially for women who crave emotional release. And let's be brutally honest. How many men are trained to listen with the same patience, presence, and validation as a therapist? Not many. So what happens? She feels more understood in that room than she does at home. She starts comparing. Why can't my boyfriend listen like this? Why doesn't he get me the way my therapist does? And before you know it, the man she's supposed to be working through her issues with becomes the man she secretly leans on emotionally. Then there's Michael. He didn't see it coming. He's 47, a construction engineer. His girlfriend had been seeing a male therapist to work through some personal struggles. At first, Michael supported it. He even encouraged her, thinking it would help her feel more balanced and happier in the relationship. But slowly, something shifted. She started quoting her therapist in everyday conversations, repeating his advice as if it carried more weight than Michael's words ever could. Then came the subtle comparisons. He really understands how I think. Or, he just gets me in a way most people don't. Michael brushed it off at first, but it ate at him. When she had a rough day, she'd rush to book a session with her therapist instead of opening up to him. One evening, she admitted she felt closer to her therapist than to anyone else. That was the moment Michael realized the line between professional help and personal intimacy wasn't just being tested, it was breaking. Let's be clear. I'm not saying every therapist crosses the professional line. Many are ethical, but the risk lies not just in his intentions, it's in the bond itself. Emotional intimacy can form whether he wants it to or not. And if your woman already feels distant from you, therapy can accelerate that drift. Because in her mind, the man who hears her tears, her fears, her private thoughts, becomes the man she feels closest to. That's a dangerous transfer of loyalty. So what's the strategy? First, encourage therapy, but steer it toward couples therapy. That way, the emotional investment is shared, not siphoned away. When the therapist hears both of you, the process strengthens the relationship instead of pulling it apart. Second, set boundaries. If her therapy sessions are leading to secrecy, like hidden topics, emotional walls, or comparisons to how you don't understand her, you need to address that directly. Ask, do you feel like you can only open up in therapy? Because if that's true, we need to fix how we connect. Third, pay attention to the transfer of intimacy. Is she starting to lean on therapy for validation instead of you? Is she more emotionally available before her sessions than after? Those are warning signs you cannot ignore. And here's the painful truth. If another man, therapist or not, becomes her primary emotional confidant, you're in trouble. Relationships die not when attraction fades, but when vulnerability shifts to someone outside the bond. Don't let that happen on your watch. Support her healing, yes, but never let yourself be replaced as the man she trusts most. The male therapist is dangerous not because he's unethical, but because he's positioned perfectly. He's the listener, the validator, the safe space. If you don't reclaim that role in your own relationship, you're signing up to be the outsider in your own love story. And trust me, you do not want to wake up one day realizing the man she trusts most was never you. By now, you've seen the pattern: the gym guy, the bartender, the CEO, the bestie, the therapist. Different faces, different roles, but all roads lead to the same weakness: Emotional gaps and blurred boundaries. That's the common thread. Your woman doesn't drift because these men are better looking, richer, or smarter than you. She drifts because someone else slipped into the emotional space you stopped occupying. And here's the cruel irony. If you try to control her out of fear, you actually push her closer to them. Blind control backfires, always. So what's the real strategy? It's not surveillance. It's not jealousy. It's not playing detective on her phone. The smartest move is building emotional defense, not by caging her, but by becoming the man who's hardest to replace. That means strengthening your own presence, sharpening your awareness, and creating a bond she doesn't want to escape from in the first place. Let me tell you about George, 54, an insurance worker. His younger girlfriend had gotten close to a male coworker. Lots of lunches, inside jokes, late-night texts about projects. George felt the sting of jealousy, but instead of exploding or trying to ban the coworker, he made a different move. He sat down with her, laid out what he noticed without accusing her, and asked straight, "Are we losing our spark?" Then he went to work, not on the coworker, but on himself and their relationship. He started leveling up his health, investing in his career again, surprising her with dates that reignited their chemistry. He didn't beg, didn't accuse, didn't spiral. He upgraded. And you know what? The coworker faded back into irrelevance because George reclaimed the space that belonged to him. That's how you defend your relationship without losing your dignity. Here's the warning you need to hear. You cannot stop every threat. That's a losing game. There will always be gym guys, nightlife charmers, powerful executives, sympathetic besties, and therapists with time to listen. You can't lock her away from the world, but you can make yourself the man who holds her loyalty by choice, not by force. And that's where true security comes from. So what does this strategy look like in practice? First, communication. Not nagging, not accusations. Direct, transparent dialogue. Say what you see, say how it feels, and listen to her response. A woman who's invested will respond. A woman who's drifting will get defensive. Either way, you get clarity. Second, observation without paranoia. Pay attention to patterns, time spent, energy shifts, sudden secrecy, but don't jump to conclusions. Watch with calm detachment. That's strength, not insecurity. Third, invest in your own value. Keep yourself attractive, not just physically, but mentally, socially, financially. When you grow, she feels the pull of your gravity. No other man can compete with the kind of presence that keeps evolving. And fourth, set boundaries. Not walls, not cages, boundaries. Make it clear what respect looks like in your relationship. If she crosses those lines, it's not about controlling her. It's about deciding if she still deserves access to you. Here's the ultimate truth. The most powerful defense isn't fear, it's strength. You can't be everywhere, watching everyone, but you can be the man who's so centered, so valuable, so irreplaceable, that the thought of losing you becomes the real risk she won't take. That's how you win, not by chasing threats, but by becoming the one she never wants to lose. So let's bring it all together. You've now seen the 5 archetypes of men who can slip into your relationship if you're not paying attention. The gym guy, the physical proximity, the bartender or DJ, the nightlife seduction, the wealthy businessman, the power and status pull, the male bestie, the emotional siphon, and the therapist, the professional confidant who can quietly become the most trusted man in her life. Different masks, same danger. They step into the space you left unguarded. And once emotional gaps open, opportunities appear. Once boundaries blur, loyalty shifts. That's the pattern you cannot ignore. But let me be clear. This is not about demonizing these men or their jobs. Not every trainer is hunting for your girlfriend. Not every bartender or CEO is scheming. Not every therapist is crossing the line. The real problem is never the profession. The real problem is when emotional gaps, unchecked boundaries, and neglected intimacy leave your relationship vulnerable. That's when another man has the chance to walk in and take what should have been yours to protect. And here's the hopeful part. You don't need to control the world to keep your relationship safe. You don't need to ban her from the gym, forbid her from going out, or stalk her phone like a detective. That path only weakens you. What you need is mastery, not over her, but over yourself and the frame of your relationship. When you maintain your own value, when you communicate clearly, when you set boundaries without fear, you become the man who's hardest to replace. And that's the only real insurance policy you'll ever need. So remember this. Your power doesn't come from chasing threats. It comes from becoming the man she doesn't want to risk losing. That's emotional defense the smart way. That's how you stay in control, without chains, without paranoia, without begging. If this message hit you where it hurts, and you know it's the truth, make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, drop a comment, and share this video with a man who needs to hear it. Because the truths I'm giving you are the ones no one else dares to say. And the more men who wake up, the stronger we all become. You've checked her phone. You've replayed every excuse in your head. And still, you can't shake that gnawing suspicion she's hiding something. The harder you push for answers, the more she pulls away, leaving you drowning in doubt. That's the cruel trap men fall into, chasing evidence while she perfects her mask. And here's the cost. You lose your peace, your dignity, and years of your life to a lie you can never quite catch. But what if I told you there's one question so sharp it cuts straight through every excuse, every mask, every performance? One question that doesn't just test her loyalty. It forces her to confront herself. Stay with me, because I'm about to give you that question. And once you know it, you'll never chase in the dark again. Before I reveal the question that can expose deception, I want to know who's listening. Hit subscribe, give this video a like, and then drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I read everyone, and it reminds me just how far this message is reaching. Men everywhere from every background who've carried the same suspicion. And trust me, what you're about to hear can end years of doubt with just one question. When a man suspects his partner is cheating, his first instinct is almost always the same: hunt for evidence. He checks her phone when she's in the shower. He scrolls through social media likes and late-night comments. He drives by her workplace or suddenly shows up unannounced, hoping to catch her in the act. And when the paranoia reaches its peak, he sits her down and fires off the dreaded question: "Are you cheating on me?" But here's the brutal truth. You're playing a game she's already trained for. If she is cheating, she's rehearsed her denial. She's prepared her alibis. She's layered her lies with just enough truth to make them believable. The moment you rely on direct interrogation or endless surveillance, you step into the weakest position possible. You've made her the gatekeeper of the truth. She holds the answers, and you're left chasing shadows. That's why most men spiral deeper into obsession. They think one more text message, one more suspicious detail, one more late-night check will finally expose the secret. But instead, they end up exhausted, anxious, and emotionally unstable. The truth doesn't surface. It gets buried deeper under her practiced calmness and well-timed explanations. Let's get clear. Asking, "Are you cheating on me?" is the wrong question. Why? Because it only invites a binary answer, yes or no. And no one intent on hiding betrayal will suddenly choose yes. All you get is denial. And the more you push, the more defensive she becomes, forcing you into a desperate cycle of doubt and dependence on her words. Here's the shift you need. Stop looking for proof like a detective and start positioning yourself like a strategist. Instead of chasing her behavior, you observe the cracks in her consistency. Instead of demanding answers she's already rehearsed, you ask questions that pierce the mask. For example, rather than, "Where were you last night?" a question she's prepared for, you might calmly say, "I've noticed the energy between us feels different. How do you feel about where we are right now?" That's not about catching her in a lie. That's about making her emotional reality visible, because no liar can perfectly synchronize words, tone, and body language over time. So if you've been stuck in the endless loop of searching phones, questioning stories, or setting traps, understand this: you've been playing her game, and when you play her game, you lose your dignity long before you ever find the truth. And that's exactly why most men never uncover betrayal, because they start with the wrong assumption that proof will set them free, when in reality, proof is the last thing you'll ever get. And that leads to the real question: if evidence and direct confrontation don't work, then what does? Here's where things shift. If chasing proof only drags you deeper into doubt, then what can actually cut through the noise? The answer isn't a mountain of evidence. It isn't a screaming match at 2 a.m. It's one single question. Now, let me be clear. I'm not talking about some trick question or clever trap. This isn't about catching her in a slip of the tongue. It's about precision. A well-crafted question doesn't live on the surface where lies thrive. It dives into the place where her words and her conscience collide. That's why it's powerful. Think about it. A liar rehearses facts. She's ready for, "Where were you?" or "Who were you with?" She's got those locked down. But what she can't rehearse is how her body reacts when you ask her to face herself. A true question doesn't just demand information. It demands reflection. And reflection is where the mask starts to crack. For example, instead of asking, "Are you cheating on me?" which is a dead end, you might ask, "Do you feel you're still living in alignment with the promises we made to each other?" That's not a yes or no box she can easily tick. That's a mirror. And when she looks into it, something slips. Maybe it's hesitation. Maybe her voice tightens. Maybe she overcompensates with too much enthusiasm. That's where the truth leaks out. Not in the content of her words, but in the way she struggles to hold herself together. This is why one well-aimed question can outperform hours of interrogation. Interrogation forces her to perform. A single question forces her to reckon with herself, with the relationship, with the gap between who she pretends to be and who she really is. But here's the catch. Asking the right question requires control over yourself. You can't fling it in anger, expecting her to break down. That only arms her defenses. You ask it calmly, almost as if you're inviting her into an honest conversation. That's where the power lies. It's not manipulation, it's clarity. So why is one question more dangerous to a liar than 10 hours of surveillance? Because surveillance fights her story. But the right question, it fights her conscience. And the conscience always leaks through. And this raises the next challenge. If one question can force a crack in the mask, then how exactly does that mechanism work? Why does it break the performance wide open? Here's what most men don't realize. Deception isn't just lying. It's storytelling. When a woman cheats, she builds a narrative in her head long before you ever suspect. She rehearses the lines. She knows how to answer, "Where were you?" with polished ease. She layers excuses so neatly that even she starts to believe them. That's why when you come at her directly, you're not talking to the truth. You're talking to the script. But here's the thing about scripts. They're fragile. They only work on the surface. The moment you shift the question from facts to values, the whole structure starts to shake. When you ask, "Are you proud of the life we're building together?" you're no longer tugging on the details of her alibi. You're tugging on her identity. And that's not something she can fake without strain. Think about it like this. A lie can cover up actions, but it can't cover up conflict. If her behavior is out of sync with the values she claims to hold, her body will give her away. You'll see it in her pause before answering, in the slight crack in her voice, in the way she avoids holding your gaze. She might even overcompensate, saying, "Of course I am." A little too fast, a little too loud, because silence feels dangerous. That's the crack in the mask. This isn't about analyzing every blink or breath like a detective on a crime show. It's about recognizing the mismatch between her story and her state. Words are rehearsed, Tone isn't. Body language isn't. Emotional rhythm isn't. That's where the lie collapses. Here's a practical move. When you ask the question, stay silent after. Don't fill the space. Don't rush to explain yourself. Just let the silence sit. That's when the mask gets heavy. That's when she has to carry the weight of her own split reality, what she's saying versus what she's living. And this is why the right question is so devastating. It's not a trap in your hands. It's a collision inside her. Two worlds she's been balancing, her excuses and her guilt, suddenly slam together. And when they collide, something has to slip out. The real giveaway isn't what she says, it's how she says it. The hesitations, the forced calm, the flicker of irritation, those are the markers of truth trying to break free. That's why the smartest thing you can do is stop hunting for her words and start observing the cracks in her performance. But what exactly should you be looking for when the mask starts to fracture? Because once you know the signs, you'll never miss them again. The truth has a funny way of escaping. Words can be polished, stories rehearsed, but the body never lies. When a woman is carrying the weight of betrayal, her nervous system is doing overtime. And no matter how controlled she thinks she is, that stress leaks out in the smallest, most inconvenient ways. You'll see it in her eyes, the quick glance away, the refusal to hold your gaze for more than a second. You'll hear it in her voice, a sudden tightening on certain words, or laughter that feels just a shade too forced. Sometimes it's in the rhythm. She takes too long to answer, as if she's editing her script in real time. Or she responds too quickly, trying to shut the door before you can look inside. Either way, the performance feels off. These aren't just nervous habits, they're the cost of living two lives. One life is the image she's projecting, loyal, committed, aligned with the relationship. The other is the secret she's guarding. That split creates tension, and tension always leaves a trail. Think of it like a crack in glass. You don't need to smash it with a hammer. The pressure inside does the work. The hesitation, the restless hands, the sudden need to fidget. These are micro fractures in the mask. The more pressure she feels, the more those cracks widen. Now, here's where most men screw it up. They obsess over catching the big slip, some Hollywood-style confession or dramatic meltdown. That's not how real life works. Real life gives you small, consistent leaks. The way her smile doesn't reach her eyes, the way her tone drops when you touch on future plans, the sudden subject change when you mention loyalty. A practical tip: when you ask the right question, stop listening only to the words. Zoom out, watch the whole package. Her face, her hands, her timing, even her breathing. You're not trying to play detective, you're trying to notice alignment. Do her words line up with her emotions? Do her reassurances carry the weight of conviction? Or do they sound like they're holding something back? That's where the truth hides. And here's the cold part. Once you learn to see this, you can't unsee it. You'll start noticing it everywhere. That's power, but it's also painful, because once you see the cracks, you can't pretend the glass is still whole. But here's the catch. Your ability to spot those cracks doesn't just depend on her, it depends on you. Because the way you ask the question, the energy you bring into that moment, can either bring the truth out or bury it deeper. Most men, when suspicion hits, come in hot. They lead with anger, accusations, demands. And what happens? She snaps into defense mode. Her brain doesn't even process the meaning of your words. It switches to survival. Fight, flight, or fabricate. She gets louder, colder, or more convincing in her denial. And you walk away thinking you pushed her, when in reality, you just gave her a reason to double down. That's the trap. When you let anger drive the moment, you create an enemy, not an opening. And an enemy is always armed. She'll reach for every shield, deflection, blame, the victim card. Suddenly, you're not closer to the truth. You're knee-deep in a battle you can't win. Now flip the script. Imagine instead of storming in with accusations, you ask with composure, no raised voice, No clenched jaw. You sit across from her and speak with the calm curiosity of someone searching for clarity, not a fight. That calmness is disarming. It lowers the wall she's built, because when you're not attacking, she doesn't know which defense to grab. This isn't manipulation. It's strategy rooted in self-respect. You're not begging. You're not threatening. You're choosing dignity over drama. And that choice gives you leverage. A calm question creates silence. And in that silence, the cracks start to show. Here's how you do it in practice. First, your body language. Open posture, steady eye contact, no aggressive leaning forward. Second, your tone. Firm but steady, no sarcasm or sharp edges. Third, your phrasing. Instead of, "Are you cheating on me?" which invites a rehearsed, "No," you frame it as an inquiry into the relationship itself. Do you still feel aligned with the promises we made? That's not a trap question, it's a mirror. And most people can't look into a mirror without flinching if they're hiding something. When you ask calmly, you're not giving her a battlefield, you're giving her a stage. And the performance is where the truth leaks. Anger corners her into playing a role she knows by heart. Calmness forces her to improvise, and improvisation is where the cracks appear. Remember this. You're not trying to win an argument. You're trying to uncover reality. And reality doesn't need shouting to be revealed. It just needs the right conditions to breathe. But here's the kicker. Even with the right question, asked the right way, something deeper happens next. The words and the mask may still hold, but inside her body, inside her emotions, a clash begins. That clash has a name, and it's the biggest giveaway of all. When a woman is hiding betrayal, the most reliable clue isn't in what she says. It's in the gap between what she says and what her body, tone, and energy reveal. That gap is called emotional dissonance. And it's the one thing no cheater can fully disguise. Here's the psychology behind it. To keep a lie alive, she has to hold two realities at once: the life she presents to you and the secret she's hiding. That split creates internal tension, and the body doesn't lie under pressure. It leaks the truth in micro-expressions, in tone shifts, in hesitation. Picture this. She says, "Of course I love you." But her arms are crossed, her shoulders tight, and her eyes flicker away at the end of the sentence. Or she insists, "You mean everything to me." But her voice strains, running a half pitch higher than normal. That's dissonance. The words are sweet, but the delivery is sour. And your gut picks up on it, even if your brain tries to rationalize it away. The key is to stop focusing only on the script she delivers and start observing the alignment. Does the tone match the content? Do her actions echo her promises? Does her timing feel natural? Or is there a pause, a scramble, a filler word like "well" or before she lands on her answer? Those tiny cracks matter. Because truth flows effortlessly, but lies always drag behind. Now here's why this is powerful for you. Most men miss dissonance because they're too focused on the exact words. They want the verbal proof, but liars thrive in verbal sparring. It's their strongest ground. When you learn to watch the emotional signals underneath, you shift the entire balance of power. Suddenly, you're not debating her words. You're witnessing her struggle to keep the mask in place. And let me be clear, this isn't about paranoia. It's about precision. You're not hunting ghosts in every twitch. You're looking for patterns, consistent mismatches between what she presents and what leaks out. A single nervous laugh doesn't prove cheating, but repeated dissonance across conversations, that's the fracture line. Think of emotional dissonance as background static in a song. You can't always name it at first, but you know the harmony is off. And once you hear it, you can't unhear it. But here's the problem. When that static becomes noticeable, most people who cheat don't collapse into confession. Instead, they double down with another psychological defense: projection. They'll flip the spotlight back on you, blaming, confusing, even accusing, to keep the attention away from their own cracks. When emotional dissonance starts leaking out, Most cheaters don't just sit there exposed. They scramble to protect themselves. And one of the oldest tricks in the book is projection. Instead of facing the guilt inside, she flips it outward and makes you the problem. You'll hear things like, "You've been distant lately," or "You're always so suspicious." Some even turn the tables harder. "You're controlling. You're the reason I feel suffocated." In that moment, she's not just deflecting. She's rewriting the story so she can play the victim. Why does this happen? Because projection reduces her internal guilt. If she can convince herself that you're cold, inattentive, or untrustworthy, then her own betrayal feels less shameful. It becomes understandable. Psychologically, projection is a survival tactic. By assigning her own flaws to you, she creates enough mental fog to keep the lie breathing. And here's the trap. Many men fall for it. You start defending yourself, arguing, proving you're not the bad guy. Suddenly, the focus shifts. Instead of her fidelity being in question, now you're in the hot seat. It's the perfect sleight of hand. Your energy goes into proving your innocence while her guilt stays hidden. The solution is awareness. You can't stop projection from happening, but you can refuse to be dragged into its theater. When she blames you for being cold, ask yourself, is this truly about me, or is it a reflection of her own distance? When she floods you with confusing, contradictory details, remember that overcomplication is itself a signal. Truth is simple. Lies are heavy. Another pattern of projection is overreaction. A small question like, "Do you feel good about us lately?" can trigger a defensive storm. Anger, tears, sudden accusations, all designed to overwhelm you so the real issue gets buried. But here's the insight. Disproportionate defensiveness is a red flag. People who are clean don't panic when asked about loyalty. They answer calmly. So how do you handle projection? By staying grounded. Don't fight fire with fire. Don't get sucked into proving your worth. Step back and recognize projection for what it is, a sign of fractured integrity. It's not just her deflecting blame, it's her guilt bleeding through the cracks. But that leaves us with the hardest part. If projection is so slippery, if she can twist the script and make you question your own reality, how do you finally cut through all the noise? How do you pierce every layer of defense and hit the truth at its core? After all the projection, all the confusion, all the defensive storms, there's still one way to break through everything, and it doesn't involve spying, arguments, or dramatic ultimatums. It comes down to one question, a question so deceptively simple that it slices through every mask she's built. That question is, are you still proud of the life we're building together? Notice what this does. Unlike, are you cheating on me? Which only invites denial, this question pulls her into a confrontation with herself. It forces her to measure her current behavior against the very foundation of your relationship. Trust, shared values, and a future built together. It's not about an affair, it's about integrity. Here's why it works. Pride in a shared life can't be faked. If she's been loyal, the answer flows naturally, calm, grounded, aligned with her body language. But if she's been betraying you, the question creates a collision inside her. On one side is the story she's rehearsed, the perfect defense, the rationalizations, the excuses. On the other side is the reality of her actions, the fracture she knows deep down she's caused. That internal collision is almost impossible to hide. You'll see hesitation. You'll feel the disconnect in her tone. Maybe she avoids your eyes. Maybe she answers too quickly, almost like she's shutting down the conversation. Or maybe she over-explains, adding unnecessary detail to patch the silence. These aren't random quirks. They're the sound of two realities clashing inside her. And here's the beauty of it. You don't need her to confess. You don't need a smoking gun. The answer isn't in the words. It's in the congruence between her words and her emotional presence. This question strips away the performance and forces her true state to leak out. But let's be clear. This isn't just a tactic to expose her. It's a test of you. Can you stand in that moment, calm and steady, prepared to accept whatever truth surfaces? Because if you ask this question, you must be ready for the answer, even if it shatters you. That's the price of dignity. To seek truth without begging, without controlling, without losing yourself. So the next time doubt gnaws at you, don't waste months playing detective. Don't get trapped in endless projection battles. Ask one question. Ask it with clarity. Ask it with calm. And listen, not just to her words, but to her soul's response. Because once you hear that truth, you'll never be the same man again. And that, my friend, is the beginning of freedom. You've seen it now, the endless chase for evidence, the late-night phone checks, the desperate interrogations. It never gives you peace. It only traps you in a cycle of suspicion and dependence. That's why so many men never find the truth. They drown in proof hunting, while their partner grows more skilled at deception. But you've also seen the alternative. Just one question, delivered with calm, delivered with dignity, can cut through months of lies in a single moment. Not because she confesses, but because no mask can survive when pride and integrity are put on the table. Are you still proud of the life we're building together? That's not a trick line, that's a mirror, and the way she reacts will tell you everything you need to know. The power of this question isn't only in exposing her, it's in restoring you. When you stop chasing and start standing, you shift the entire balance. You're no longer the desperate man begging for scraps of honesty. You become the man who seeks clarity, who values truth over comfort, and who refuses to live in the dark. And here's the real win. Once you know the truth, you're free. Free to rebuild if there's still integrity left. Free to walk away if betrayal has poisoned the foundation. Free to reclaim your dignity, your time, and your peace of mind. Because living with doubt is worse than facing pain. Pain heals, doubt corrodes. So I'll leave you with this. Don't waste years chasing shadows. Ask the question, watch closely, accept what you see. That's how you reclaim your life. If this message struck a chord, don't just keep it to yourself. Subscribe to this channel for more straight talk about relationships and the psychology behind betrayal. Hit like, drop a comment with your thoughts or experiences, and share this video with another man who needs to hear it. The more we spread clarity, the fewer men stay trapped in silence. Remember, truth is your ally, dignity is your weapon, and freedom begins the moment you demand both. Gentlemen, let me ask you this. Has a woman ever said something so flattering it made you let your guard down, only for you to regret it later? Maybe she praised you for being strong or told you that you're the best she's ever had, and suddenly you found yourself solving her problems, covering her bills, or forgiving behavior you knew was wrong. That's not romance, that's strategy. The most dangerous manipulation doesn't come from harsh words. It comes from sweet ones, repeated at just the right time to bend you to her will. And once you fall for it, the price is high. Wasted years, lost money, broken trust. But here's the truth. You can spot it if you know what to look for. Today, I'll reveal the 5 sweet lies women use to control men, and the bonus red flag that proves if she's real or just using you. Science shows us this. The male brain is far more sensitive to positive reinforcement, while the female brain pays sharper attention to negative signals. What does that mean for you? It means when she drops a compliment, your guard lowers automatically. You feel validated, special, even chosen. And that's exactly why sweet talk is the perfect weapon to steer you where she wants you. Now, before we break down these 5 sweet lies, do me a quick favor. Hit that subscribe button so you'll never miss a lesson that could save you years of pain. And I want you to answer this honestly in the comments. Have you ever fallen for sweet talk before? Just a simple yes or no. Because in the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal how these words, the ones that feel so harmless, can completely shift the power in your relationship. Number 1, I love our conversations. On the surface, that sounds like the sweetest thing a woman could say. Every man wants to believe his presence, his words. His mind is so captivating that she just can't get enough. And yes, sometimes it's genuine, But when she keeps saying it while never making the effort to actually see you face to face, that's not connection. It's substitution. She's not choosing you. She's using you as a filler until something better shows up. Let me break it down. When a woman truly values your conversations, she will naturally want to match that emotional connection with a physical one. She'll make time. She'll want to sit across the table from you, to laugh together in real life, to deepen what you've already started. Words are the bridge, but action is what builds the road. If all you're getting is words and the bridge leads nowhere, you're not her man, you're her placeholder. Take David, a 52-year-old engineer who'd been divorced for a few years. He tried online dating, and he met a woman who was charming through texts. Every night she'd tell him, "I love our conversations. You're the only one who gets me." At first, David felt special. He believed he had finally found someone who appreciated his mind and his humor. But whenever he asked to meet for dinner, she had an excuse: late work, family crisis, or simply not feeling well. This happened again and again. After months of texting, he realized she never intended to meet. David wasn't her partner. He was her emotional crutch, the safe option she could lean on when she was bored or lonely, while she kept her real life open for someone else. Here's the hard truth. If a woman only engages with you on her terms, through her phone, at her convenience, you're not building intimacy, you're supplying attention. And attention is addictive. She's getting her fix of validation, while you confuse her availability to chat with genuine interest. That confusion is dangerous, because men are biologically wired to respond strongly to positive stimuli. When she sprinkles a sweet line like, "I love our conversations," your brain lights up. You mistake comfort for commitment. So how do you know if it's real? Watch what happens when you shift the frame. Invite her into your real life. Suggest coffee, a walk, a dinner. If she consistently avoids it, the message is clear. She loves the idea of having you on the hook, but she doesn't love the effort of showing up. A woman who truly values you won't just love the words you type. She'll want to feel your presence. Gentlemen, the solution is simple but not easy. Stop giving endless energy to women who refuse to meet you in reality. Don't be the emotional janitor who cleans up her boredom at midnight through text. Value your time. Value your presence. If she's not willing to match words with action, step back and invest in someone who will. And here's where it gets even trickier. Once she realizes words alone don't hold you, she might upgrade her game. That's when the compliments start pouring in and they're aimed straight at your ego. Number 2, you're so amazing, so strong, so generous. Let's be honest, what man doesn't love to hear this? When a woman tells you that you're handsome, powerful, successful, or generous, it hits the deepest part of your ego. Compliments feel like rocket fuel, especially for men. Your brain lights up with dopamine, and for a moment you feel invincible. But here's the catch. If she's only saying it to set you up for an ask, then it's not admiration. It's strategy. You see, flattery by itself isn't dangerous. We all need it, and in a healthy relationship, it flows naturally. But when every compliment is followed by a request, that's when you know you're not being celebrated. You're being softened up. It's like a salesman who tells you how smart you are right before sliding the contract across the table. She's not admiring you. She's conditioning you. Mark, a 47-year-old business owner, learned this the hard way. He started dating a woman who constantly told him, "You're so generous. You're the kindest man I've ever met." At first, Mark felt proud. Finally, someone saw his good heart. But soon, every compliment had a price tag. Right after praising his generosity, she'd mention her phone bill that needed paying. A week later, after calling him such a strong man, she hinted about her broken fence. By the third month, it was her rent. The pattern was clear. Compliments in, requests out. And Mark realized he wasn't in a romance. He was in a transaction. Here's what you need to notice. The timing. Real admiration stands on its own. Fake admiration comes with strings attached. If she tells you you're amazing and then soon after asks for money, favors, or problem solving, you're being played. And the requests don't always look financial. Sometimes it's endless rides, constant errands, or emotional labor she should be handling herself. The point isn't the size of the ask, it's the predictability of the pattern. Now here's the solution. When she gives you a compliment, don't let it cloud your judgment. Instead, pause and observe. Does the praise stand by itself, or does it open the door to a hidden agenda? One simple test. Say, "Thank you," and leave it there. If she smiles and the moment stays light, that's genuine. If she pivots into, "Actually, could you help me with?" then you have your answer. Men, you need to understand this. A woman who truly values you compliments you because it brings her joy to uplift you, not because she wants to cash in on your pride. Real love fuels you. Manipulation drains you. And if you ignore this difference, you'll end up pouring your resources into someone who doesn't love you, just loves what you can provide. The truth is, your ego can be your biggest weakness. And once she learns how to play it, she'll keep pressing that button. But what happens when she hits the button that every man is most vulnerable to? The one tied directly to your masculinity in the bedroom. Number 3. You're the best lover I've ever had. Every man wants to hear this. It hits at the very core of male pride. The idea that you're not just good in bed, but the best she's ever had. It's intoxicating. For a man, being crowned the king of the bedroom feels like the ultimate validation of masculinity. But here's the harsh truth. Sometimes that line isn't about you at all. It's about control. When it's real, it shows up naturally. Maybe after a night where the chemistry was undeniable, she leans in and says, "You make me feel things no one else has." That's sincere, and you'll see it backed up by her actions. Affection, warmth, and consistent respect outside the bedroom. But when it's a tactic, it usually shows up right when she needs to distract you, pacify you, or cover something up. Imagine this. She's been distant for a few days. You sense something's off. Maybe you even confronted her about flirting online or hiding something. Instead of answering directly, she disarms you. She pulls you close, gives you that praise, and suddenly your doubts feel smaller. You think, why would she say that if she wasn't really into me? But that's the trap. The compliment isn't proof, it's camouflage. Here's why it works. Sexual validation is a hot button for men. Science shows male brains respond powerfully to positive reinforcement tied to performance. If she tells you you're the best she's ever had, it flips a switch. You feel chosen, irreplaceable, above the competition. And in that state, you're less likely to question, less likely to push back. She's not just flattering you, she's sedating your defenses. So how do you spot the difference? Look at what follows. A genuine compliment strengthens intimacy. It leads to more closeness, more mutual care. A manipulative compliment is usually followed by a request or an excuse. She might ask for forgiveness for something you caught her doing. She might expect you to overlook a red flag, or she might use it to distract you from the fact that her effort in the relationship is slipping everywhere else. Here's the solution. Don't let your pride blind you. When you hear "you're the best lover I've ever had," smile, appreciate it, but don't let it overwrite reality. Ask yourself, does her overall behavior match her words? Is she showing up outside the bedroom with the same respect, commitment, and consistency? If the answer is no, then that line isn't a compliment. It's currency. She's paying you in flattery to buy herself more freedom to act without accountability. Men, your strength lies in being able to separate your ego from your judgment. If you can enjoy the compliment without being controlled by it, you win. If not, you'll keep excusing behavior that chips away at your dignity. And here's the kicker. If she can manipulate you with intimacy, imagine what happens when she drops the 3 most powerful words in the English language. Not just, "You're amazing," not even, "You're the best," but, "I love you." Number 4, I love you. 3 little words that every man longs to hear. They can melt defenses, heal wounds, and make you feel like the center of her world. But here's the problem. Sometimes "I love you" isn't an expression of deep affection. It's a tactical move. When those words are used in the wrong context, at the wrong time, they stop being a gift and start being a tool. Let's get clear. In a healthy relationship, I love you flows naturally. It comes after a meaningful moment, a shared laugh, a sacrifice, or a quiet night where the bond feels undeniable. It's backed by consistency, care, respect, and actions that prove the love is real. That's when those words build intimacy. But in manipulation, the timing is everything. She might drop "I love you" right before asking for a big favor, money for bills, help with her problems, or even covering up a mistake. Or she might say it immediately after being caught in the wrong, hoping to distract you from your anger. In those moments, "I love you" becomes less about love and more about leverage. Take John, a 55-year-old man who had been in a long-term relationship. Over time, he noticed a strange pattern. Whenever he confronted his partner about hidden spending, like when she secretly took money from their joint account, her reaction was always the same. Tears in her eyes, she would whisper, "But I love you." At first, John softened. He thought, if she really loves me, maybe I'm overreacting. But eventually, he realized those words were never followed by changed behavior. They were just a shield to deflect accountability. The love was conditional. It only surfaced when she needed to neutralize his boundaries. Here's how you protect yourself. Pay attention to context, frequency, and aftermath. Does she say "I love you" in moments of genuine closeness, or only when she wants something? Does she repeat it like a broken record every time you resist, as if trying to overwrite your instincts? And most importantly, what happens after? Real love creates lasting warmth. Manipulative love vanishes the moment you give in, until the next demand. Gentlemen, the solution is simple but firm. Don't measure love by words alone. Test it against actions. When she says, "I love you," observe what follows. Does she respect your boundaries, or does she push them? Does her behavior align with her declaration, or does she use the phrase as a reset button whenever she feels cornered? If it's the latter, then those words are not a confession. They're a currency, traded for your compliance. It hurts to admit this, but it's better to face the truth now than to be drained slowly over years. Real love thrives in honesty and action. Fake love hides in timing and excuses. And if you think "I love you" can be manipulative, wait until you hear the 4 words designed to strike right at a man's protector instinct. You're my hero. Number 5. You're my hero. These 4 words can melt a man faster than anything else. Why? Because every man, deep down, wants to be seen as strong, reliable, the one she can count on. Being called hero taps into your protector instinct. It's flattering, it feels noble, it makes you believe you're indispensable. But here's the reality. Sometimes it's not admiration, it's bait. When it's sincere, "You're my hero" comes from gratitude. Maybe you helped her through a tough week, stood by her during a crisis, or simply showed up consistently. In those cases, the words are backed by appreciation. You see it in how she treats you afterward, with respect, reciprocity, and care. She admires you because she values who you are, not just what you can do. But when it's manipulation, the phrase always comes tied to a need. She calls you her hero right before asking for help with something she should be handling herself. Suddenly, being her hero means fixing her car, paying her bills, or bailing her out of a mess she created. Notice the pattern. The title of hero is dangled in front of you like a medal, but the cost of keeping it grows higher and higher. Here's the danger. Once you buy into the role, you'll start overgiving to protect the identity she created for you. You don't want to lose the admiration, so you keep proving yourself again and again. Meanwhile, she doesn't actually respect you. She's managing you. You're not her hero. You're her handyman, her financier, her safety net. So how do you tell the difference? Pay attention to how often the word shows up. Real gratitude isn't rehearsed. It's rare and genuine. Manipulation, on the other hand, is predictable. If "You're my hero" shows up every time she needs something, you're not being loved. You're being leveraged. Here's the solution. Don't let your need for validation trap you. If she calls you her hero, thank her, but don't rush into proving it. Step back and ask yourself, is this something she could and should be handling herself? Would she still call me her hero if I said no? That's the test. If the admiration disappears the moment you stop serving, it wasn't admiration at all. It was a mask. Men, remember this. You don't need a woman to crown you a hero. Your worth doesn't come from saving someone who refuses to save herself. A real partner won't need you to constantly prove your value through sacrifice. She'll admire you for who you are, not just for what you can provide. And here's where things reach the breaking point. Because while hero flatters your ego, the most dangerous phrase doesn't sound sweet at all. It's bitter, guilt-ridden, and usually comes right after you say no. And that brings us to the bonus red flag, the phrase that doesn't sound sweet at all. It's not part of the 5 sweet lies, but it's every bit as manipulative. It usually shows up at the very moment you finally push back, when you dare to say no. That's when you hear the classic guilt trip. You don't care about me. You don't love me. This one isn't designed to flatter you. It's designed to break you. The goal is to flip the script, to make you feel like the bad guy for simply protecting yourself. When a woman uses this line, she's not speaking from love or hurt. She's speaking from control. David, the 52-year-old engineer we met earlier, faced this exact trap. After months of being her texting companion, the woman he was seeing finally asked him to buy her a designer handbag. When David politely declined, explaining it wasn't his responsibility, her response was instant. "If you loved me, you'd do it. You don't care about me at all." Suddenly, he wasn't a man with healthy boundaries. He was painted as selfish, cold, even cruel. And for a moment, David questioned himself. Was he being too harsh? Was he failing her? That self-doubt was exactly the reaction she wanted. Here's why this tactic works. Most men fear being seen as unloving. When she attacks that core part of your identity, you scramble to prove her wrong. You buy the gift. You cave on the boundary. You swallow your no. And the second you do, the cycle is locked in. Every time you resist, she'll reach for that same weapon. It's emotional blackmail, dressed up as a test of love. But love doesn't need constant proof. Love doesn't demand that you sacrifice your dignity to show you care. Real love respects limits. Fake love punishes them. So how do you deal with this? First, recognize it for what it is: manipulation. Don't get dragged into debating whether you care. You already know the truth. Second, respond with clarity instead of defense. Say something like, "My love isn't measured by gifts or favors. It's measured by respect." If you can't see that, then this isn't love. That response shuts down the guilt trip and shifts the responsibility back to her behavior. Men, hear me. You don't owe proof of your love every time you say no. A relationship where no is unacceptable is not a partnership. It's a hostage situation. If her affection only survives when you comply, it's not love at all. And here's the final twist. By now, you've seen how ordinary words, "I love our conversations," "You're amazing," "You're my hero," can be weaponized. It's never about the phrase itself. It's about the timing, the frequency, and the aftermath. That's the invisible pattern that decides whether you're being cherished or controlled. So let's bring this full circle. The 5 sweet lies we've uncovered. I love our conversations. You're so amazing. You're the best lover. I love you, and you're my hero. Plus, the one bitter red flag of, you don't care about me, or you don't love me, are not evil in themselves. These words are beautiful when they're sincere. But when they're used in the wrong context at the wrong time, they stop being love and start being leverage. Too many men only realize this after years of being drained, years of paying bills that weren't theirs, Years of forgiving behavior that never changed. Years of carrying the weight of a relationship that was never truly mutual. Don't let that be your story. You don't have to wait until you've lost money, time, and self-respect to wake up. You can see the red flags now, and you can step out before the damage gets worse. Here's the truth. Real love doesn't come with a price tag. It doesn't demand proof through endless favors or transactions. Love that is genuine stands strong even when you say no. It's shown through respect, consistency, and care, not through manipulation or guilt. So let me leave you with this. Pay attention to the patterns. If her sweetest words always come with strings attached, that's not love, it's control. And you deserve better than that. If this message spoke to you, hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss the next video. We're just getting started on exposing these hidden dynamics. Drop a comment below and tell me, which sweet lie have you heard the most? Your story might be exactly what another man needs to hear to wake up. And don't forget to like and share this video, because the more men who see this, the fewer will fall into the same trap. Stay sharp, stay aware, and remember, the sweetest words can be the most dangerous lies.